Our country is being poisoned from within by the drugs and by all of the other crime that's taking place. The drug cartels are waging war in America, and it's now time for America to wage war on the cartels. In this war, Joe Biden has sided against the United States and with the cartels. They are making more money than they've ever made before, times 10. There's never been anything like it. They're major, major companies. They're bigger than even some of our biggest companies. Biden's open border policies are a deadly betrayal of our nation.
CIA
when I am
shambles.
president, it will be the policy of the United States to take down the cartels, just as we took down ISIS and the ISIS caliphate, and just as, unlike the situation we're in today, we had a very, very strong border, the strongest border, in fact, in the history of our country, and drugs were at a low of 45 years. There's been nothing like what we did just 2 years ago. We will show no mercy on the cartels. Every day, drug traffickers are using the waters of our region to ship their lethal poisons to America, killing so many of our people.
Oh, boy.
And ruining families. In addition to restoring strong border security, I will deploy all necessary military assets, including the U.S. Navy, to
Oh, my God.
impose the full naval embargo on the cartels. I did that before, and it worked. What we did was incredible. We will guarantee that the waters of the Western Hemisphere are not used to traffic illicit drugs to our country. Furthermore, I will order the Department of Defense to make appropriate use of special forces, cyber warfare, and other overt and covert actions to inflict maximum damage on cartel leadership, infrastructure, and operations.
He's just saying he's going to fucking just going to go and kill him. Oh, my God.
I will designate the major cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. We will sever their access to global financial systems. I will...
Jesus. Oh, wow.
will also work to forge an unprecedented partnership with neighboring governments in our region, just like I did in Mexico. And remember, in Mexico alone, an estimated 100,000 civilians have been tragically murdered or gone missing at the hands of these cartels.
Oh, my God.
The Mexican government, run by a very fine man, the president, is really working hard, but it's not working out. These cartels are vicious and they're violent, and they have Mexico for now stymied. Well, we have to help Mexico, and we have to stymie the cartels. Either we will get the full cooperation of other governments to stop this menace, or we will expose every bribe, every kickback, every payoff, and every bit of corruption that is allowing the cartels to preserve their brutal reign. And it is...
Oh, my God. Bro, if this happens... Holy shit.
Indeed brutal. Finally, as I have said before, I will ask Congress to pass legislation ensuring that drug smugglers and human traffickers receive the death penalty. The drug cartel...
Oh, boy. Yep.
And their allies in the Biden administration have the blood of countless millions on their hands. Millions and millions of families and people are being destroyed. When I'm back in the White House, the drug kingpins and vicious traffickers will never sleep soundly again. We did it once, and we did it better than anybody else. There's never been a better border than we had just 2 years ago.
Oh, man.
It was strong, it was powerful, and it was respected all over the world. And now we're laughed at all over the world. And we're not going to let that happen much longer. We have to take over. We have to be tough. We have to be smart.
Jesus.
We have to be fair. But if we don't do something immediately, our country is gone.
Bro, if that shit happens, that is going to be fucking insane. Because, like, that's kind of what happened in El Salvador. Donald Trump announces that he will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth.
Here's my plan to stop the chemical...
And here's what's important about this thing. This has 295,000 likes. This is massive. I actually think, like, it's very weird, but I actually think that the trans issue was extremely circumstantial and extremely instrumental in radicalizing people against left-wing ideology. I do. I think it was, like, massively influential. Even though it's such a small percentage of people.
Mutilation of our youth.
Oh.
On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe this? I will sign a new executive order.
There it is, right? And so the reality is that on social media, people have been led to believe that this is a normal opinion that average people have. When you explain putting a 12-year-old on puberty blockers and giving them surgery to change their gender, or a 15-year-old, if you explain this to an average Walmart American, they're going to want to call the police because we could have a molester here. There's somebody like, this is bad, right? This could be something bad. Yeah, absolutely. It's child abuse. Yeah. This is not an opinion that average people have. And on the internet, there's been such a massive distortion of what normal is that it's been seen as like this is a contentious topic. It's not a contentious topic at all. If I had to guess, I would say probably 70, 80, if not 90% of people do not support this. It's not even remotely close. Walmart American sounds like a slur. I know. That's why I use it.
Instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age.
What's this?
Can you believe this? I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age.
Wow.
I will.
Damn, bro, they're going all the way with this. Yeah, they are. Trans issues were not important in this election. No, I think that they were. And so let me explain why. So a lot of people have like indicators of competency. And what I mean by that is that a lot of people will discount or disagree with something or not like somebody based off of a certain action that that person takes that might not necessarily be reflective of everything else, but it is an indicator of a pattern of thought or a pattern of behavior. So what happens is that when somebody hears that, you know, somebody thinks like, oh yeah, you should have like, you know, like underage kids, like taking puberty blockers or transitioning with like gender affirming care. This is something that like the moment that they hear that, it doesn't matter the rest of the things that you say because that is so offensive to them that they are just automatically against you. That's what happens. Trump said, yeah, exactly. Social issues were number one among swing voters. Yeah. And I really think that people are downplaying. And here's what's funny about it, right? Is that trans people are less than 1% of the population, right? So by all intents and purposes, this is really not an important problem to solve for the country, right? It's really not that big of a deal. Like you've got inflation, you've got wars in like Ukraine, you've got like crumbling social systems. Are trans people really the focus? They're not. But the fact that the other side, like Democrats, want to use this as an issue and they're not willing to just kind of let it go, other people aren't going to let it go either. That's it. They have a loud voice. Yes, of course, right? And so, against virtue is important. Yeah, and so that's what I think happens the most. Yeah, virtue signaling, yes. And so so he's using identity politics too. He is. And so basically, I think that this election, more than anything, I think it was a refutation of radical identity and social politics. I think that is a huge component to it, because average people are very put off by this. And I'm always speaking about this from a perspective of I'm just talking about it like anecdotally, right? I'm saying like, oh yeah, I have like 7 friends that I've talked to about this that I've grown up with that aren't streamers or anything, and they all think the same thing about this. Oh wow, sample size of 7, who cares? But how many of you guys have had the same experience with people that are in your life that have the same opinions, that are like, no, this stuff is crazy? I would love to see data. Well, there is data about a lot of this stuff. There actually is, like opinion polls and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. And so there's a lot of them. We're sick of the lunacy, and I think a lot of average people are sick of, they're sick of being told that like, oh yeah, you're a bad person for like not seeing this the same way that they do. The data is Trump won the popular vote. Yeah, and I think that like the radical positions on social issues is actually one of the biggest issues that affects voting. I think it's very, very big, or at least like this time around. And the reason why I think it was so big is because these social issues are accessible to anyone. Like anybody can understand what a man and a woman is. Anybody can understand, like, you look around and like men are on average taller, women are on average shorter, right? And you can see this. And so you can go to like basically any place in the world and they're going to have this same distinction. It's because it's a natural occurring thing in humanity. And so what happens is that whenever you diverge from that, you're denying such a core truth that a lot of people know to be true, and it's just not going to work. And so it's like, for example, if I know that somebody thinks that the earth is flat, I think this is a really good one. If I know that somebody thinks that the earth is flat, I automatically assume that everything else they're going to say is going to be really stupid, and I think that they're a stupid person. And I think what's happened is that with these radical social issues, people view them the same as I view the earth being flat. And it's like the moment that they hear you say that, like biological men should compete against women in sports, this is like an automatic disqualifier, because it just goes against every bit of logic, reasoning, and lived experience that they've ever had. Do you see what I'm saying?
Then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures, and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. And
wow.
Go very quickly. I will declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth will no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare, and will be terminated from the program immediately. Further,
Jesus Christ, yeah. Like, I'm actually really curious, because like now there's like almost no restrictions. Is he just gonna go and just do this? He's going in? Yeah.
furthermore, I will support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed these procedures on.
See, this is the thing. This is what I was talking about before. It's like it's not enough for them to just simply stop it from happening. They are going to go after the people that did it, and they are going to fucking nail them up on a cross. Yeah, there are going to be actual... that's what's going to happen. And the thing is that you might think that's unfair or whatever, and in a lot of ways, I'd probably agree with you. But there's a lot of people out there that have been made to... they've felt like they haven't been able to express themselves. They haven't been able to have the opinions that they've wanted to have. And that has caused so much animosity and frustration. Fair as fuck. Why, like, I mean, this is my personal opinion. I don't really care. Like, my personal opinion on this is a little bit different, but I think that it's good to analyze what people are thinking, and at least what I think people are thinking. So, like, we can debate it all day. It's not really that important. The point is that a lot of people effectively want revenge. That's the reason. It's not enough for them to make it stop happening. They want to take the people that were doing it and they want to crucify them. And they want to do it publicly to set an example for everybody else. If you ever try this again, this is what's going to happen to you. Now, it might not be something that you say in polite company, but I think when people get behind the voting booth, that's what they want to do. That's what it comes down to. Hold them accountable. Yeah, I think that's it.
Minor children, the Department of Justice will investigate Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients, in this case, very vulnerable. We will also investigate whether Big Pharma or others have illegally...
I do think this kind of messaging is probably the most effective messaging he could use talking about this, because he's effectively... He's basically looking at it as like the people that are looking for like these type of like gender reassignment surgeries and things like this. These people are the victims, right? He's trying to help them, in like big pharmacy, or like they're the ones that are bad.
Marketed hormones and puberty blockers, which are in no way licensed or approved for this use. My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination. And the
Man. Base mask off. Yeah, and here's the thing. I think that if you were to ask people how many people support this, I think you would get an easy supermajority. Easy supermajority. To base, abolish First Amendment. Teachers and the way that they interact with students as a as like an agent of the state, that's not the same as the First Amendment. Yeah, it's really not. I hate Trump, but I support this. Yeah, I think this is the reason why there's no First Amendment school. Yeah, that's not what's going on here. I think, so this is what my opinion is. I think that it's important for people to understand what being transgender is. And I think that towards the end of like middle school or high school, when kids are fully understanding of sex education, they should be made aware of the idea of being transgender. They should know that this exists. They shouldn't be taught to be transgender, but they should know this does exist. That's my opinion. A lot of people are saying no. That's fine. Why? Because it does, and I think that schools should be preparing kids to see the world as it is, rather than creating a worldview to teach kids that is that's subjective. I think that schools should be to how to prepare kids and how to teach them to accurately see the world and how to prepare them for what's happening in the world. And that's why it's important to teach kids about Hitler. It's important to teach kids how Hitler came to power. It's important to teach kids what the Holocaust was or what civil rights were, or anything like that, because you have to understand and know what the world is that you're living in. What Trump is saying here is students being told by their teacher that they could be transgender. This is totally different than being taught that there are people that believe that they're transgender. These are two very, very different things. One of them is a personal interaction, and the other one is education. So that's my you want to know what my opinion is? That's what my opinion is on it.
The elimination of federal funding.
I know a lot of people disagree.
As part
with
of our
me.
new credentialing body for teachers, We will promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of mothers and fathers,
Yep.
and celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique. I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing.
And this is just, again, all of these things, this is like a massive W for people that I think are common sense enjoyers. Everybody knows men and women are different. The idea that they're not is completely fucking delusional. No, like they think differently, everything. Slippery slope. I think that you're right that it's a slippery slope. But what I would also say is that if you ask somebody who's a big supporter of this, they would say that, yeah, but the opposite is a slippery slope, and we've been sliding down that for 10 years, and so it's time to change the slope. I think that people understand that, like any sort of like enforcement of like, you know, like family values, politics, and or anything like that, like it could very easily be turned into something that ends up being oppressive in the same way that it was in like the early 2000s, for example. Very, very easy for that to happen, or the 90s. So yeah, I think people know that.
That the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. The bill.
That is crazy. Like, and not like, I'm not saying like he's wrong or right. I'm saying like that is extreme. So he's basically saying like there is no non-binary. You cannot identify as a third gender or a third sex. You can't change it. That's even for adults. Yeah. Man. It's a biological fact. Well, what I'm saying is that regardless of whether you think that it's a biological fact or not, you have to admit that this is a massive departure from what's been going on and how things have been trending in the last 10 years. This is like 180 degrees in the opposite direction. That's what I'm saying. Next 4 years are going to be fucking rowdy? Yeah. They told us they were going to do this, Project 2025. Oh, maybe. No, it's not. There are intersex people and they're biologically recognized as a fact. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the details for that are, but I think that's like a super, that's like 0.001% chance.
Will also make clear that Title IX prohibits men from participating in women's sports.
Literally the easiest W. Like, this is the easiest W. I am shocked that they kept trying to push this. Like, this is, again, it's another super majority opinion. Intersex is literally 0.1% of the 0.1%. Yeah. And so, yeah, this is exactly like, and there are a lot of people, and this is what I'm saying is like, you know, if you go down to like, I don't want to say this as like a derogatory term or like a diminutive term, but if you really go and you ask your Walmart Americans, if you go and you ask, you know, you go out to the park somewhere, you go out to like some public event and you just interview people there, what do they think about this? I think that you're going to get again, pretty much everybody agreeing with this. Do you think pushing gender has to do with Elon's son? No, I think that Trump is just simply responding to what a lot of people in the public are wanting to see. There are more laws against trans athletes than there are trans athletes. So, and that's what I was saying before, right? Is that I think that the trans athlete issue and the entire trans issue, you're right. I think that everybody knows that it's like a fringe issue. It is a tiny fractional issue, but the fact that it exists is a demonstration of such a profound lack of fairness and a profound lack of like what people believe to be common sense that it creates a huge focus point because of how extreme it is. And it's used as like as an anchor point that people look at every other opinion that that person has. It's like what I was saying with flat Earth. The moment that you think somebody believes in flat Earth, then immediately you're going to discount everything else that they say. Is it not identity politics then? It is. It absolutely is. Of course.
And we will protect the rights of parents from being forced to allow their minor child to assume a gender which is new and an identity without the parent's consent. The identity will not be new, and it will not be without parental consent. No serious country should be telling its children that they were born with the wrong gender, a concept that was never heard of in all of human history. Nobody's ever heard of this, what's happening today. It was all when the radical left invented it just a few years ago. Under my leadership, this madness will end. Thank you very much.
A lot of people massively support this. Like, if you look at this, this is 300,000
Here's my plan to stop.
Like, this is 16 million views. People are massively in favor of this. And I think that this is the problem, right? Is that social media websites, places like Reddit, and previously places like Twitter, and places like even Twitch, for example, a lot of people cannot criticize or have conversations about their true feelings about transsexual issues because a lot of people don't really believe in it, and it's considered transphobia. So what's happened is that you've had an echo chamber that's been created where the people that are supportive of it are still vocal. The people that are not supportive of it are either quiet or banned. And so you have a feedback loop where people keep hearing over and over, this is the right thing, this is the right thing. But the problem is that when you have, like a social platform like now Twitter with Elon Musk, and you see a lot of people don't agree with it, and then you see there's like a bunch of people out in public that don't really understand it or don't agree with it. That's what happens. That's whenever the, that's whenever the dam falls apart and all the water goes through. Let me see if I look at a few more of these. Trans activists created this kind of chamber on purpose, but they only have only done it to themselves, harm for long term. The video is not recent. It was made in 2023. Yeah, and that's the point that I'm making, is that this has been a long time coming. I understand that these videos didn't happen yesterday. I never said that they did. But what I'm saying is that I think that like a lot of these like left-wing ideology, identity politics things have turned people, they have turned people radically against, I think, that any kind of left-wing ideology, because they're unable to divorce themselves from these extreme issues that are affecting and also supported by such a small minority of people. And I think also a lot of people see how you can't criticize this at all on social media. And there are a lot of people on social media, you guys can tell me if you think this way or not, that you can't criticize these issues or talk about your honest opinions about them. And because of that, it makes you angry and it makes you resentful. I think there's a lot of people who are like that because they don't want to be told that they can't have an opinion on something. It's very simple. And so, especially whenever it's an opinion that they don't think is extreme or bigoted or bad, it's just their personal opinion. So it's annoying. Yeah, and so you see a lot of these people that are pushing back. I got permabanned on Reddit for it. I was very reasonable about it too. Yeah, exactly. And so that, I think, is one of the biggest components here. And I think that social media and the internet has created an echo chamber where these types of values, it's the same as like that girl interviewing that couple. It's like internet politics. Internet politics is like a fringe extreme. And also, even inside of internet politics, a lot of social media websites banning people that have other opinions. It's kind of like if everybody agrees with you because you've banned everybody that didn't agree with you, well, that doesn't necessarily mean those people go away. It's a way of brainwashing. Yeah, exactly. It's censorship. Yeah, if you censor everybody else that doesn't agree with you, that's it. Why they feel a need for an opinion on an issue that doesn't affect them, just allow others to do what they want. The reason why people think that is that they want to have an opinion. Like if somebody tells them like, oh yeah, like I think I should be able to compete in women's sports as a transsexual male, and you say, I don't agree with that. People want to be able to have an opinion on something. Everybody is going to have an opinion on these things. Of course that they are. It's common sense. People care about kids. Yeah, and I think also, like, I actually think that the average population, if you look at, like, adults transitioning I actually think that the majority of adults don't care about other adults doing that. I actually think that just on a base level, like trans like acceptance is the majority. But I think what really radicalized people was the sports issue and also the issue with children. And those two things put together radicalize people so much that now, like what Trump is saying, now they're against the entire thing. That's what I think has happened. It's compelled speech. Yeah. I think also compelled speech is also a huge thing. People don't want to be told what to say. I think they need to address Section 230 and make platforms and publishers hold them accountable for moderation. Giving companies the shield of being a platform while giving the ability to moderate content incentivizes bad actors. I think that social media is in dire need of regulation, but the problem is that people only want to regulate social media when it's advantageous for them to do so. Nobody is actually trying to regulate social media for a principled reason. They're just trying to regulate social media so their side will win. And that's the issue. It's that you take, because social media, if you want a real temperature check on how powerful something like Twitter is, think about the fact that Joe Biden, the sitting president of the United States of America, announced that he was not running and he was stepping down from running from president of the United States of America on Twitter exclusively. That is fucking insane. If that doesn't show that it matters, I don't know what does. It's insane. That's why everybody goes and has accounts on Twitter. It's because it's massively influential. Are you not worried about the people that you know who are transgender? I think it's definitely a huge problem. And I've always been in support of trans, like people being able to be trans. I've always been supportive of that. Like, I don't think, like, I mean, I'm sure I probably made a transphobic joke here and there, but otherwise, I've always been supportive of that. Yeah, sure. But I think that also, like, why? It's not relevant to me. It's not important to me. When I say I don't care about what other people do, I mean it. So, yeah, I don't really give a shit. And so I just try to be compassionate and reasonable with other people. But when I'm talking about these things, I'm recognizing these trends, and I'm talking about it because I see how these things have happened and how they've evolved over the years. I don't care. It has to be 18. Yeah, of course. I completely agree. You support as long as they say hidden or in low positions. I think that that's probably true in like a general level. Like if somebody wants to use their position to push their sexual identity, I think that's a bad thing. But I think also like a lot of people don't want to be confronted with stuff like that because it's just not what they're interested in seeing. So yeah, that's really the way I see it. What the fuck? It's an L? No. I mean, like, look, people are entitled to their opinion. It's not really that big of a deal. But that's just what I think. Do you think it's a mental illness? I think that it could be in some cases and it's not in others. At the end of the day, I don't really think that it matters whether it's a mental illness. It's the same thing that I said about like being gay, for example. Like, I don't think it should matter whether you're gay by choice or you're born gay, because I think what you choose to do with another consenting adult is your business and your business alone. And the state shouldn't be trying to make rules and telling you what to do. So to me, it doesn't matter what, you know, why somebody is gay. Oh, they could choose to be gay. Sure, you want to choose to be gay. You can, because it's a free country. You can do what you want to do. And I think that's really that's the main component to it, is that you're free to pursue things, you know, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if your idea of happiness is fucking another dude in the ass, as long as they're over 18 and it's consensual and it's not in public, then that sounds great to me. It's not my problem. Whether you feel like you have to do it, you want to do it, or you just need $20, it doesn't matter. Do it for whatever reason you want. That's the way I see it. Maybe I'm crazy. And problem begins when you no longer do you, but force me to do so? Yeah, I think that's definitely where it comes down to. Or you're disturbing the neighbors. Yeah, of course. Should the state subsidize a sex change? I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so, but I'm not like 100% on that opinion, but like my gut reaction is no. Anyway, so Asman is the most American takes ever, and it's not a bad thing. He just wants a free America. Yeah, imagine that. Imagine, yeah, it's, What I try to do is I try to look at what my understanding of the Constitution is and what the intent behind it was. And I think, okay, well, how can you apply this? That's it. It's very simple. There is a big war, and this is the next big problem that's going to happen. Eventually, Democrats will get control back again. This will happen because it always happens. However, the next big attack on people's liberties is going to be on social media, and it's going to be against free speech. I think that it's going to get a lot worse because they're going to try to codify different types of speech compelling regulations into law. German economics minister already calling for regulation of X. It's fucking sad. Yep, that's right.
If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple.
He's right, by the way. He's completely right about this.
Just like dominoes, one by one, they'll go down. That's why today I'm announcing my plan to shatter the left-wing censorship regime and to reclaim the right to free speech for all Americans. And reclaim is a very important word in this case because they've taken it away.
They have. Like, the social media websites absolutely did that.
Recent weeks, bombshell reports have confirmed that a sinister group of deep state bureaucrats, Silicon Valley tyrants, left-wing activists, and depraved corporate news media have been conspiring to manipulate and silence the American people.
Anybody who's on social media knows this has been happening. It's not free speech, it's a private platform. I understand that it's a private platform, but don't you think that it's problematic when all of the private platforms act in unison and collusion in order to stop people from having certain opinions across all of the internet? Like, whenever you own a massive amount of a market share and you're working with other people that own the remaining amounts of that market share and you're making decisions unilaterally, you are effectively a monopoly and you need to be regulated. It's that simple. Also, these websites enjoy a tremendous privilege that's given to them by the government. So if I go to YouTube, for example, and I look at YouTube, let's look at copyright infringement. How many of these videos here are copyright infringement? Let's see. This is copyright infringement. All of the movie. This is a movie. This is another movie. This is a movie. Do you think that all of these things were licensed by Warner Brothers or by MGM or whoever made this movie? Of course not. No. And so YouTube is hosting content on their website that breaks the terms of service, that breaks the law. They break copyright law directly, and they're getting away with it. It's not fair use. It's not fair use to just post a clip on YouTube. Who the fuck thinks that's fair use? Look up what fair use even is. That's clearly not fair use. So these websites are enjoying a tremendous and massive privilege by allowing people to, this like popcorn picks. What the fuck is this? Diablo 2. Did Blizzard license this? No. So none of these things were licensed by anyone. These social media websites enjoy a massive privilege that allows them to exist. And that massive privilege is given to them by the government. And it's called Section 230, which means that they are a platform and not a publisher. The difference is that a publisher is exercising editorial discretion on what's uploaded and what is not uploaded, and a platform allows users to upload whatever they choose. So the problem is that these companies want the privileges of a platform, but they also want they want the privileges of a publisher, but they also want the accountability of a platform. So when you look at these things, yeah, they want both privileges, exactly. And so that's what I think is really going on. So when I'm talking about like regulation, these companies have regulation right now on them, and the regulation allows them to exist. So if you take that regulation away and you treat them fairly, their entire business model would fall apart and YouTube would be out of business in 24 hours. I'm not kidding. Like, if you took away Section 230, they would have to shut down the entire website. That's it. And so when you're looking at like these companies and you're talking about like, oh, well, they're a private company. Okay, well, if they're a private company, why are they getting these privileges? They would just have to stop moderating? Yeah. I've been watching 4-hour-long Family Guy videos for a month on YouTube. Yeah, imagine what would happen if YouTube could get sued for that. Anyway, so what I'm saying is that these companies that are social media platforms, they are not operating in a free space. They are operating under a privilege that is granted to them by the government. And I think that because of that, there should be a degree of accountability. Because if you're using that privilege in a bad way, then you shouldn't have it.
They have collaborated to suppress vital information on everything from elections to public health. The censorship cartel must be dismantled and destroyed, and it must...
And it is a cartel, very obviously. And you can see this happen when a person gets banned on one platform, and then all of the platforms ban them at the same time. I think Alex Jones is the best example of this.
Happen immediately, and here's my plan. First, within hours of my inauguration, I will sign an executive order banning any federal department or agency from colluding with any organization, business, or person to censor, limit, categorize, or impede the lawful speech of American citizens.
Wow. Trump himself was banned? Yeah, he was. Trump got banned on Twitter. And the funny thing is that, like, think about what happened after that. He got banned. They didn't put him in jail. Elon Musk bought Twitter, fired everybody that was doing it. I would not be surprised if Trump goes after the people that were running Twitter whenever they banned him and tries to put them in jail or something. I could easily see that happen. That was a disgrace? Yeah. He should. I mean, I don't think you should put them in jail for nothing, right? If they're guilty of a crime, they should go to jail, of course, same as anybody else. But yeah, exactly do it. No, I think that absolutely he would do it. That's banana republic bullshit. I don't think so. I think that if the companies are doing it on behalf of the government and breaking the law, then they should be held accountable, but not if they're not doing it.
I will then ban federal money from being used to label domestic speech as mis or disinformation.
Yep.
And I will begin the process of identifying and firing every federal bureaucrat who has engaged in domestic censorship.
Oh my God. It's going to be a fucking rapture. It would be too petty to do that kind of vengeance. You think it would be too petty on the conversation topic of Donald Trump? Uh-oh.
Directly or indirectly, whether they are the Department of Homeland Security,
Jesus,
the Department of Health, Human Services, the FBI, the DOJ, no matter who they are. Second, I will order the Department of Justice to investigate all parties involved in the new online censorship regime, which is absolutely destructive and terrible.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
And to aggressively prosecute any and all crimes identified. These include possible violations of federal...
The purge? Yeah. No, of course.
Civil rights law, campaign finance laws, federal election law, securities law, and antitrust laws.
By the way, I totally support this. I absolutely do. I think this is long overdue. It's been evident to me that these companies are misusing their position for years and years and years. Finally, this is happening.
The Hatch Act and a host of other potential criminal, civil, regulatory, and constitutional offenses. To assist in these efforts, I am urging House Republicans to immediately send preservation letters. And we have to do this right now.
Oh, this is how, so they can't delete the evidence. Because if you get a notice of preservation, you're not allowed to, what do you call it? You're not allowed to delete information.
Now, to the Biden administration, the Biden campaign, and every Silicon Valley tech giant, ordering them not to destroy evidence of censorship. Third, upon my inauguration as president, I will ask Congress to send a bill to my desk revising Section 230.
Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. Here we go. This was what I hoped Trump would have done in his first term. Like, this was like, I remember like thinking, and I was like, okay, maybe if I vote for Trump, like, he'll regulate social media, because I think it's a huge problem, because he understands social media in a way that other people don't. He didn't do it. It made me very mad. Like, that was actually one of the main things I was hoping he would do. Maybe now he's going to do it, because I thought that he was in a unique position to be able to do that.
To get big online platforms out of censorship business. From now on, digital platforms should only qualify for immunity protection under Section 230 if they meet high standards of neutrality.
This is exactly what I wanted. Yep. Exactly what I wanted.
Transparency, fairness, and non-discrimination.
Yep. There you go. Man. Oh boy, oh boy. The answer to censorship is censorship? That's not, I understand, you know, that's like a, I don't know, like a 90 IQ Reddit take. But like, no, that's not what's happening here. I agree, no censorship. Yeah, if you want to say your opinion, preach, but I have the right to know who you are. You have the right to know who somebody is? No, you don't. Why do you have the right to know who somebody is? That's crazy. The government does. Sure, I think you can make that argument, but no, you don't. As an individual, absolutely not.
We should require these platforms to increase their efforts to take down unlawful content such as child exploitation and promoting terrorism, while dramatically curtailing their...
Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. Does this also stop platforms from being slaves to advertisers? You know what's really funny? It does. Because if they literally can't stop this stuff because of the law, then the advertisers can't use it as leverage. I never thought about that, but you're totally right. Wow. Oh boy, oh boy. The law supersedes TOS? Yeah, of course. All this dude's saying all this shit is going to end up playing 4 years of golf. If that happens, I'm going to lose. I'm going to be so mad. I feel like if that happens, I'm probably never going to vote for another Republican ever again. Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I would be so fucking mad. Can you explain the last comment? Basically, they have to maintain neutrality. Yeah, it's pretty simple. The concern here will be if the energy they have for applying this for the other party is the same for their own party. I'm pretty sure that the Republican Party has done their own censorship. Yeah, they have. You're right. I think that's a very reasonable concern. I think you're right. Claude, you did vote? Yeah, I voted for Trump the first time. I didn't vote the second or the third time.
Power to arbitrarily restrict lawful speech. Fourth, we need to break up the entire toxic censorship industry that has arisen under the false guise of tackling so-called mis- and disinformation.
Wow. Holy shit. Holy shit.
The federal government should immediately stop funding all nonprofits and academic programs that support this authoritarian project.
True. Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, who decides misinformation? Exactly. Yeah, this is crazy. Holy shit.
If any U.S. university is discovered to have engaged in censorship activities or election interferences in the past, such as flagging social media content for removal of blacklisting, Those universities should lose federal research dollars and federal student loan support.
Oh my God. What's crazy about this is the fact that he's going to do it retroactively. Holy shit. Oh my God. America's Movie Fuck. Yeah, this is nuts. I don't agree with the 5-year non-funding on universities. It's only going to hurt the students. They need to punish the board who made those decisions. Oh, why not both? Yeah, no, it will hurt everybody if he does that. And that's the goal. That's exactly what he's trying to do.
For a period of 5 years and maybe more. We should also enact new laws laying out clear criminal penalties for federal bureaucrats who partner with private entities to do an end run around the Constitution.
Thank fucking God. Yeah, absolutely. True.
And deprive Americans of their First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment rights. In other words, deprive them of their vote. And once you lose those elections, and once you lose your borders like we have, you no longer have a country. Furthermore, to confront the problems of major platforms being infiltrated by legions of former deep staters and...
This was crazy to see how many people that worked in the CIA that went to work at Facebook. That was really interesting for me to see that on LinkedIn. What an interesting thing to notice.
Intelligence officials.
Wow.
There should be a 7-year cooling off period before any employee of the FBI, CIA, NSA, DNI, DHS, or DOD is allowed to take a job at a company possessing vast quantities of U.S. user data.
Probably a good idea. I actually think this probably is a good idea. You know, it's actually crazy how many right-wing influencers were literally paid by Russia to make propaganda. Look up Tim Pool's Russian payments. What does that have to do with... Yeah, I mean, that's bad. For sure. Okay. That was easy, right? Yeah, bad. Big bad. Ooh, real bad. Not good. Ooh, bad.
Fifth, the time has finally come for Congress to pass a digital Bill of Rights. This should include a right to digital due process. In other words, government officials should need a court order to take down online content.
Government officials should need a court order to take down online content. I agree with that. Because he's referring to, so at the beginning, I was like, wait a minute, I'm kind of shaky on this. But if he's referring to how the government can affect a social media user's account, then he's totally within his jurisdiction of doing that, right? Because, yeah, the government shouldn't be able to, like, make people take things down without a court order. Absolutely. What about school shooting videos? Well, the government wouldn't really be taking that down. I don't think anybody is going to be complaining about school shooting videos.
Not send information requests such as the FBI was sending to Twitter. Furthermore, when users of big online platforms have their content or accounts removed, throttled, shadow banned, or otherwise restricted, no matter what name they use, they should have the right to be informed that it's happening, the right to a specific explanation of the reason why, and the right to a timely appeal.
Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy. Thank fucking God, yeah. And the thing is that all of this stuff, like, I support all of this. I completely do. And I think that he absolutely has the right to do it. I think the government absolutely has the right to do it because of Section 230. These companies could not exist unless they are given this basic immunity, get out of jail free card for copyright infringement. Like, if you take that away from them and you treat them like everybody else, they immediately can't exist. So, you know, again, with great power comes great responsibility.
In addition, all users over the age of 18 should have the right to opt out of content moderation.
People say they'll assassinate him for this. Here's what you don't understand. If they end up assassinating Trump, JD Vance is going to be like, okay, that was a good start. We're going to do all of that. And now we're going to do all this other shit too. Yeah, Vance will go 10 times harder. Yeah. Like, in a lot of ways, it seems like he's even more conservative than Trump is. So, no, I don't think that's what's going to happen at all. JD will be afraid? I don't think so. Yeah, they're not going to make him a martyr. I think that they realize that. Because he's already put out all of these things. And so Trump's already put out a lot of these things as kind of like action items. So if Trump did get assassinated, and there's effectively a mandate for these policies to become law, anybody who went against that would be immediately, like, hated by everyone else. Same logic applied with him and Pence the first time. Pence was way worse than Trump in policy. Oh, yeah, the electricity, yeah, the shock thing. I don't know if that actually happened, but a lot of people were talking about it.
A timely appeal. In addition, all users over the age of 18 should have the right to opt out of content moderation and curation entirely. And
I hope that Trump, like, I hope he considers making it to where you can't make a social media account if you're under the age of consent. I don't think you should be able to make a social media account if you're under the age of consent, unless it's an account made on a platform that's explicitly created for kids, like YouTube Kids.
receive an unmanipulated stream of information if they so choose. The fight for free speech is a matter of victory or death for America and for the survival of Western civilization itself. When I am president, this whole rotten system of censorship and information control will be ripped out of the system at large. There won't be anything left. By restoring free speech, we'll begin to reclaim our democracy and save our nation. Thank you, and God bless America.
I swear to God, if this orange retard doesn't do this, I'm going to lose my fucking mind. Bro, I'm gonna join Antifa if this doesn't happen. Like, I'm gonna be so fucking mad. It's not even office. Yeah, bro, like, I'm gonna be fucking furious. Promise the world? Yeah, and I want it. I want it. Best thing I've ever heard from a politician? Yeah, I'm very much in support of all this stuff. And what if it does happen? Then I'll be pleasantly surprised, and I'll make YouTube videos about it and be like, yeah, that's what it is. There it is. True.
We're honored to be joined by one of the people who is going to help us build this incredible future.
Elon?
And he is a truly incredible guy. And I don't say that often.
Okay, all right, here we go. All right.
He's a great gentleman. He's done such an unbelievable job for North Carolina, for Georgia, for Alabama, for Florida, for Tennessee.
Who's this?
His name is Elon Musk. He saved free speech. He created so many different great things. Where is he? Come on up here, Elon. He created the first major American car company in generations, and his rocket company is the only reason we can now send American astronauts into space.
He's actually humping. Yeah, bro, he's actually pumping him up.
Take over, Elon. Yes, take over.
Yeah, bro, he's actually hyping him like crazy. Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Oh boy, here we go.
As you can see, I'm not just MAGA, I'm dark MAGA.
Good one.
Well, first of all, I want to say what an honor it is to be here. And, you know, the true test of someone's character is how they behave under fire.
Yeah.
And we had one president who couldn't climb a flight of stairs, and another who was fist pumping after getting shot. Fight, fight, fight. Blood coming down the face.
Okay.
Now,
We got this.
America is the home of the brave. And there's no truer test than courage under fire. So who do you want representing America?
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this election, I think it's the most important election of our lifetime. This is no ordinary election.
That's right.
The other side wants to take away your freedom of speech.
This is the last
They want to
election.
take away your right to bear arms. They want to. They want to take away your right to vote effectively. You got 14 states now that don't require voter ID. California, where I used to live, is just passed a law banning voter ID for voting.
I'm going to be honest. I'm with them on this.
I still can't believe that's real.
Yeah, I can't. I think that's so stupid.
How are you supposed to have a
You
good,
should have
proper
to have
election if
ID
there's
to vote.
No ID.
I'm totally with them on this.
And free speech. Free speech is the bedrock of democracy. And if people don't know what's going on, if they don't know the truth, how can you make an informed vote? You must have free speech.
Well, that's the problem.
In order to have democracy. That's why it's the First Amendment. And the Second Amendment is there to ensure that we have the First Amendment.
You can vote without ID? I don't even know how to vote. Like, I just show up.
President Trump must win to preserve the Constitution. He must win to preserve democracy in America.
You aren't allowed to vote anywhere? Did they take it away from me?
Yes.
I like how he's just standing there. Yeah.
This is a must-win situation. Must win. So I have one ask for everyone in the audience, everyone who watches this video, everyone in the live stream. There's one request. It's very important. Register to vote. Okay? And get everyone you know.
I'm registered.
And everyone you don't know, drag them to register to vote. There's only 2 days left to register to vote in Georgia and Arizona. 48 hours. Like, text people now. Now. Oh, and then make sure they actually do vote. So thank you, and honestly, you want to just be a pest. Just be a pest to everyone you know, people on the street, everywhere. Vote, vote, vote. Fight, fight, fight. Vote, vote, vote. Thank you.
Goes back further
like, when's
than
the
you
shooting
can
gonna
see.
start? Shut up.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Fight, fight, fight. Vote, vote, vote. Thank you.
Goes back further
like, when's
than
the
you
shooting
can
gonna
see.
start? Shut up.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Shut up,
Thank
idiot.
you very much. So what our opponents have never understood is that this movement has never been about me. It's always been about you. It's been about a lot of people, millions and millions of people, the biggest ever in the history of this country, maybe anywhere. And everyday people who are the heart and soul of our country. They love our movement, they love our country, and they know they're doing right. Your hopes are my hopes, your dreams are my dreams, and your future is what I am fighting for every single day.
Yeah.
And now I have a great companion in J.D. Vance. How good was he the other night? How good?
To be fair, he did do really well. Okay? Yeah, he did great.
It was great.
He slayed. He did. He did slay.
He was great. But from the very beginning of this journey, I've been on a mission to rescue our country from a failed and very corrupt political establishment.
bad.
Very corrupt.
Real
We have
bad.
to change it. We have to change it. We need also a very free and open press, and to give it back to the country you believe in and I believe in. It's a country that we were born in and the country that you deserve. You deserve this. In that mission, I will never quit. I will never bend. I will never break. I will never yield, not even in the face of death itself.
Yeah.
And I believe that
That's
every
right.
citizen deserves an America with a grand, very, very grand ambition, great opportunities, and limitless. We just want limitless potential. We want an America where you can get ahead and be proud of life and provide for your family in a really decent way, where we don't have crime.
No
we have
more
a fabulous
crime.
military
True.
to protect us from evil. We have everything has to be
That's
the
right.
best. We have to have the best
Get
schools.
rid of the evil.
We have to have strong borders. We don't want bad people coming in and hurting us.
They're eating
We
the
don't wanna
cats and
have-
dogs.
We don't want to have open borders, do we? You deserve a government that protects and respects its own citizens, that defends your sovereignty, your security, and your dignity and your freedom. You deserve a nation that builds things, again, makes things better, that aims for the stars once more, and that once again commands respect. And we want to get respect like we had it 4 years ago. The entire world respected us. They respected us. They respected us more than they've ever respected us. And now they laugh at us. We can't have them laugh at us, can we? Above all, you deserve leadership in Washington that does not answer to the lobbyists, to the bureaucrats, or to the corrupt special interests, but answers only to you, the hardworking citizens of America, of which there are a lot of them. We have a lot of them. We have a lot of them. Over the past 8 years, those who want to stop us from achieving this future have slandered me, impeached me, indicted
True.
me, tried to throw me off the ballot,
That's right.
and who knows, maybe even tried to kill me. But I've never stopped fighting for you, and I never will. Never will. Never
That's
gonna
right.
stop. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
And in turn, you have always stood with me. You have always stood with me, no matter what. You saw what was going on. You saw the hoaxes and the scams. You saw everything that went on.
So true.
We are a team. We're a great team, I think. We're probably the best team ever in the history of our country, if you really think about it. We've fought together. We have endured together. We have pushed onward together. And right here in Pennsylvania, we have bled together. We've bled. We've had 3 people that really got hit hard. 2 of them made it. Great doctors, great doctors. They weren't supposed to make it. I wasn't supposed to make it. People said, my great doctor at Butler said, "Sir, you're the luckiest man alive. This would be a good time for you to go out and buy a lottery ticket." I've never seen anything like. I almost went out and bought a lottery ticket. I'll take it. And 31 days from now, here in this great Commonwealth, and all across our land, we are going to win together. We are going to vote together. We're going to win the greatest
There it is.
election
Yep,
in the history
yep.
of our country,
All right.
maybe the greatest election all
Yeah.
time.
Of all the greatest election. There's never been a better election than this one. This is the last one.
After we all have been through all of this together, we have.
This is the last
nobody's
election,
gone through
guys.
what we've gone through. Nobody, because I go through it. You're going through it too, but there's never been anything like this. You know, I always say there's an enemy from within, and there's an outside enemy. And if you're smart, the outside enemy is not going to be a problem. Russia, China, and North Korea. We're not going to have a problem if you have a smart president.
That's right.
If you have not such a smart president, then it's a problem.
Oh, because Kamala's
But we have
stupid.
an enemy from within, which I think is much more dangerous than the outside enemy. We stand on the
'Cause she's
verge of the
stupid,
4
yeah.
greatest years in the history of our country. We can make these the 4 greatest years. We'll turn it around so fast that your head will spin.
That's really fast. Holy shit. Think about that.
With victory on November 5th, we are going to redeem America's promise and unlock the extraordinary future that is just within our reach. It is now within our reach. Think of it, 1 month from today, 1 month. We got to get there.
Oh, yeah.
We got to get
the
there.
election.
They'll drop all sorts of bombs. They'll be hitting you, JD. They'll be hitting me. These people, they'll hit and hit. But I think we've almost become immune to it, haven't we? We've become immune to it. You got a little dose of it, a couple of little doses. That's the only way.
Please don't bring up the sofa.
That's the only way they can even think about winning, with open borders. Who wants open borders? Who wants men playing in women's sports?
Boo.
Who wants sex change operations for illegal aliens in holding bins? No, I don't think so. We will begin a new era of soaring income, skyrocketing wealth, millions and millions of new jobs, and a booming middle class. We're going to boom like we've never boomed before. And we're going to unleash a manufacturing renaissance right here in Pennsylvania, including fracking like we've never fracked before. We're going to frack.
I love this guy.
You know, our opponents said,
really
there'll be no fracking, no fracking. We'll never frack. We'll never frack. Then she started seeing poll
so
numbers.
Fucking funny.
And by the way, speaking of poll numbers, do you mind if I mention poll numbers? Because I only mention them when they're good. I never mention it. But one that's hit me really amazingly, Rasmussen, very highly respected poll. JD, it just came out. I don't think you heard this one, but this is a shocker. You know, they always say the Democrats will win the Hispanic vote, but we've been creeping up rather rapidly. And Rasmussen
He's honest.
is one of the most respected polls. I mean, Republicans would get 4, 5, 6, 9, 10%. They just came out with a poll. 62% for Trump. Think of that. Look at that. And 34% for Kamala.
62, 34.
I don't usually use her last name because nobody knows who I'm talking about. I go, Harris. They say, who's Harris? It's happening all the time. Who's Harris?
Oh, my God.
And we can't find out who she is, because if we do, our country is going to be in big trouble. We will live in a very beautiful city or town that are safe and clean, with borders that are sealed and secure.
I think that he's right.
And again, we
in
want
a lot
people
of cases.
to come
That's
into
what's
our
funny.
country. We all want that. We need that. But you know what? We want it to come in legally.
He's
They're going to come in legally
yeah.
and love for our country.
I don't
And
use
America will
name.
once again be strong and confident and free. And we're going to have that. We're going to have it strong, confident, and free. That's why I'm here today. You know, I could right now be having a beautiful life. I don't have to be here. I could be on a gorgeous beach someplace. I have such nice property. I could be in Monte Carlo as an example. But I'd rather be in Butler with you. I would rather. I'd rather be in Butler. And I think JD would rather be in Butler, JD.
Yeah. Oh, man. I wonder how big the crowd is. I wish they'd show, like...
No, I'd rather be here. Because we're doing something. You know, they got a lot of rich guys that go, nobody cares about them. I had one about a month ago, very, very rich guy.
70K people there?
He called me up. He said, President, I've known him for a long time. I don't say how long because I don't want my wife to hear that number. It's a long time. But he's very successful. And he said to me, sir, could you do me a favor? The guy's worth billions of dollars. He said, could you do me a favor? I can't get into a restaurant. Do you think you could call them to get me in? And I said, what the hell is the good of being rich if you can't get into a restaurant, right? And I called the maitre d'. Hi, I'm a little embarrassed. Hi, this is Donald Trump. I recognize your voice. So would you do me a favor? A friend of mine is online about a mile back. This is a very successful restaurant. And he's got his wife. I described the wife. Could you possibly go get them? Could you go get them and bring them in? And he did. And my friend called me up the next day. He said, thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, Doctor, please. Doctor in the house. Thank you.
Another fatality at a Trump rally. Voice is a bloodbath.
It's all right, doctor. Go ahead. That's all right.
This is the last election? Yeah, this is the last one we're going to do. Because either Trump wins and he becomes the emperor and he's just the president forever, or Kamala wins and she starts World War III and everybody dies.
People are here for a long time, and we appreciate it very much. And so sometimes that happens. A lot of times that happens, actually. But she'll be great. You watch. So 12 weeks ago, we all took a bullet for America, and all we are all asking is that everyone goes out and votes. We got to win. We can't let this happen to our country. We can't take another 4 years like this. We won't have a country left. We're not going to have a country left. And all of this will be for nothing if you don't get out and vote. It will all be for nothing. We will have talked about it, and if we do it, it'll be the greatest achievement, I think, in the history of politics for all of us for this age.
True.
Because we're going to change our country around and fast. We're going to do things that nobody thought were possible. We're going to do them fast. So Pennsylvania, it's time to stand up for America, and time to save our country. This is really about saving our country. It's never been like this. When you look at the crime, look at the crime. Look at the people that are coming in, murderers. 13,099 murderers let in over the last short period of time.
Oh, my God.
Murderers that have been
Can we get an L in the
released
chat
from
for
penitentiaries,
murderers?
prisons, jails, released into our country. Crime rates all over the world are down. They're taking their gang members and their criminals. They're taking their people in jail, and they're releasing them into our country. We can't have it.
No.
You know, we just can't have it. How do you get more simple than that? They're releasing murderers. They're releasing drug dealers. They're releasing gang members and criminals, human traffickers. Mostly they traffic in women. And they're releasing them all into our country, and they're emptying their jails, and their crime rates in Venezuela are way down because, you know, but it's not only in South America, it's all over the world, in Africa, the Congo. A lot of people coming out of the Congo in Africa. They're coming out from Asia.
Congo.
They're coming out from the Middle East,
They're coming
Yemen.
from Africa again?
They're coming out from Yemen. A lot of people coming out of Yemen. And they're known terrorists, and they just release them into our country from countries unknown also. They know nothing about the people. Oh, go right in. These people are crazy. And we have to win. We'll stop it immediately, and we'll have to, look, it will be a big deportation. We're going to deport these people. We're going to get them out of our country immediately, or we won't have a country. And if we win Pennsylvania, we will win the whole thing. The whole thing will be won. So for the sake of our families, for the sake of our children, we will keep on going. And as the expression goes, I mean, I'm a little embarrassed to say it, to be honest with you, but I'm going to say it because a lot of people do say it. We will fight, fight, fight. We're going to fight for our country. We're going to fight for our country.
Yeah.
And together we will save this country. We will restore the republic, and America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, brighter, happier, stronger, freer and greater, and more united than ever before. Our country will be united. You'll watch. You'll watch.
I think Trump is
we
going to
had the most successful country ever, maybe in the world during my term. We had the greatest economy that we've ever had. And you know what was happening? We were uniting. The other side, radical left people were coming over. They wanted to meet. They were coming over. Women, men. If you look at population, our black population, our Hispanic population, our Asian population, everybody was doing better.
It's going to be the biggest one you've ever seen.
That went to the best schools and best colleges in the world got the highest marks, and people that couldn't get a high school degree, everybody was doing better, and our country was coming together. And then we got hit with COVID, a gift from China. Some people would call it the China virus. And we did a great job on that, too. We did a great job, but the world was disturbed. $60 trillion in damage worldwide, millions and millions of tens of 60 too. We did a great job, but the world was disturbed. $60
Trying.
trillion in damage worldwide, millions and millions of tens of millions of people killed, and we still, during this 4-year period, we had the greatest economy, one of the great countries of the world, and we left with a stock market that was higher than it was just prior to COVID coming in. So what we did was something really incredible. But we had the greatest, most successful country ever. We had the greatest economy in our history, and we're going to do it again, and maybe even better. We learned a lot. We learned a lot about people and about doing things and what works and what doesn't work, and we're going to do it, and it's going to be quick.
Damn.
It's going to be quick. And we're going to have safe cities, and we're going to have great cities again, and we're going to have a capital in Washington, D.C., which is right now crime-ridden. You leave from the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, you go drive down to Washington, D.C., and you drive down, and you end up getting murdered.
Vote
you
Trump,
end up getting
please, man.
hurt. You get mugged.
Texas
We're
can be
gonna
red anyway.
We are going to
Doesn't
straighten
matter.
out Washington, D.C. We're going to make it again the most beautiful capital in the world. We're not going to have graffiti. We're not going to have graffiti on our marble columns. We're not going to have roads that have potholes all over them and medians that are falling into the highways. We're going to run it properly.
GB was telling me yesterday
We're
there's
gonna
so
change
many
it. We're gonna run
potholes
it
in
properly. It's an
Pennsylvania.
embarrassment to us. Can you imagine foreign leaders coming in and running over roads that haven't been paved in years? You know, we're all having fun here tonight, but if we don't register and if we don't vote, we're just going to look upon this as another sort of nice day in our life, but it won't even be a nice day. We're going to look back and we're going to say, wow, it's a lot of time, a lot of effort. We got to win. If we don't win, it's, as he said, it's just not important. We have to save our country, so you have to get out and vote. You got to get out and vote. You got to get your friends and vote because, you know, they play a lot of tricks, this particular other side.
I'm going to have my dog
Elon's
vote.
a very nice guy. He doesn't want to say it, but they play a lot of tricks. We can't let it happen. We can't let it happen again. We can't let it happen. And one thing, they showed us how bad they are. They showed us how bad a job they do.
I just made him up.
That's one thing we got from this 4 years. They've done the worst job. It's the worst president in the history of our country. It's the worst vice president in the history of our country. And if you watched over the last couple of days, they are doing, this is a Katrina for them. This is one of the worst.
Oh, George Bush doesn't care about black people.
Helping people through the ravages of a hurricane. And they're watching, she's out there campaigning in San Francisco, a place that she ruined. Okay, she ruined San Francisco.
Ooh.
She ruined, think of this, she ruined San Francisco. She was the worst DA, and she ruined the state of California, and now she wants to ruin the United States of America. We can't let her do it. So I called Elon to tell him that they needed Starlink as an example. They couldn't get Starlink. I didn't know what Starlink was, I must tell you. Elon, I'm so embarrassed. I didn't know what the hell Starlink was. He loves Starlink. He can tell you every little screw that's needed, every wire. Me, I didn't know. But when I was in North Carolina and Georgia the other day, yesterday to be exact, but they were saying we have tremendous communications, especially in North Carolina. And we have tremendous problems. We have no communication. The poles were ripped down. The wires were underwater. Houses were destroyed. Possibly 1,000 people, maybe more, will be, you know, there's 600 people missing. Missing is not good because you know what missing means generally. That's really bad. And they had no communication. They had literally no communication with, they called it the mainland because the water was so crazy. It was like they were in the middle of a lake.
Super bad.
And they'd never seen anything like it. And they said, do you know somebody named Elon Musk? I said, yeah, I happen to know him a little bit. He just endorsed me, actually. Although he endorsed me a long time ago. But he still, to me, every day is a good endorsement from Elon. Nobody's smarter than Elon. And they said, could you do us a favor? Could you help us? We're trying to get Starlink, and it's very hard to get. Most people say you can't even get it. I called up Elon. I said, North Carolina's in big trouble. Georgia's in big trouble. They need communication. They have none because their poles have been knocked down and their wires are underwater and even dangerously underwater, but they have no communication. Elon, could you do something about Starlink, whatever the hell that is, Elon? Whatever Starlink, that's all they want to hear is Starlink. And an amazing thing happened. I got a call from one of the top people in North Carolina. I got a call from another great person in Georgia. And I wasn't finished with my phone call yet. and they got word that Starlink would be delivered to the States. I said, no, and I said, what the hell is he, what kind of a system is that? Normally you'd have to hang up and he'd go and call people. He did it during the phone call. What kind of a system do you have? That's why he's a very advanced, he is a very advanced person. But I want to thank you, Elon, because I got it. And I said, how does it work? 2 days later, how does it work?
Yeah.
They said, much better than the wires. So now I'm saying, why the hell aren't they? You're going to come out very well anyway. And, you know, he also said, you don't have to pay me. You pay me someday when you get the money back. You don't have to pay me. He wanted nothing. He's a great guy. Thank you, Elon, for being here. Thank you very much.
It is a W that he did
Great
that.
honor.
It is good that he did that.
Great
100%.
honor.
Hashtag ad. Good ad. We should make the moon
Thank
the
you,
51st
Elon.
state.
And that's heartfelt. I can't even see the end. That's a lot of people here today. We're also joined by a great gentleman, a top, brilliant student. He went to a tremendous college and he graduated like right at the top of his class. In 2 years, I didn't know you could do that. It's 4-year college. Then he went to the military. Then he came out and he did
Is this JD?
fantastically inside the military. Then he came out. He went to Yale.
Yes,
Without
JD.
the benefit of family ties. You know what that means, right? Without the bit of, that's pretty good without family ties. I don't know too many of those people. They had no family ties. He got in. You can't get in. And he graduated along with his wife. The two, they're not going to have any problems with your kids academically, I can tell you. His wife and him were like the top students in the class. But he went to Yale Law
Why is he
School,
behind
and then he went
glass?
out into the private sector, did great. Then he ran for the Senate, and he did fantastically. He won. And he's like
it's
a
like
rocket ship.
It's
He's
because
like
of
one
the
of
birds.
Elon's rocket ships, the way his career is
There's
going.
like too many birds that are like flying
But you
low.
see why? Because he's a really
COVID.
brilliant
Yeah.
guy. And you saw that the other night in the debate, right? You saw that the other night in the debate.
I mean, to be fair, I did think JD, like, he did really
You know
well
the
in
expression they have?
debate.
If that were a fight, they would have stopped it, right?
He did. Oof.
So I just want to thank JD. I was always confident in that pick.
The glasses for
And
COVID.
we had great people
Yeah.
too, JD. We have every one of those guys were great. Every one of them would have done a great job. It was amazing. But we appreciate the job you're doing. And he's also very energetic. And he'll go on anywhere. He'll go on MSDNC. I say, oh, he's on that. He'll go on CNN. It's like he has no problem. He swats them like this. He has no problem. No, it's true. You know, other people say, sir, I'd rather not do that one. I'd rather not do that one, sir. I'd rather not do them because they are, you know, very, with him, he doesn't care. He says, they're not going to outsmart me. So I want to thank JD. You've done a great job. Thank you very much. Amazing.
Yep.
Great.
Trump won't debate. He shouldn't need to. That's it. They should end on
We
that
have a
one.
lot of senators and a lot of
Yeah.
people from Congress. I'm going to introduce a few of them that are really outstanding, and they are warriors and they're great patriots. Senator Eric Schmidt. Where's Eric Schmidt? He's around here someplace. Nice, tall, handsome guy.
He already won. It's over.
Thank
you.
you.
Think
Eric.
that's it?
What a great job you've done. He helps us so much
me
with the
see.
Senate. And we've
What's
got
the
a great
website
Senate.
for
but
betting
we have
again?
to-
What's
we
the
have to get
gambling website?
a couple of more senators elected. I think it's going to happen, too. I think it's going to happen. We have members of
Holly Market,
Congress
there you
here.
go.
Dan Muser. Dan, where's Dan? Great job. Real warrior. These are warriors. Guy Reschenthaler. That's the hardest name in the Senate to pronounce, but I've learned how to pronounce it. Guy, thank you very much. Great. Where's Guy? Guy, thank you very much, Guy. Glenn G.T. Thompson.
Ooh.
Fantastic guy. Thanks, Glenn. Great job. John Joyce. Thank you, John. Great. Corey Mills. He's out there fighting, too. He's out there. He is out there in North Carolina, Georgia. He's out there helping people. Mike
It looks like Trump's
Waltz,
ahead.
who's a tremendous national security asset. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. Okay, and a man who was my doctor. I got to know him as a
Ooh.
doctor in the White House, right? And then Before that, he was
There's $1 billion
actually an admiral,
bet
and then
on
he went to
this?
the White House. He was a great admiral. He was a great doctor.
I should start a gambling website.
And I love him for one reason. They asked him in the White House, the press,
Yeah, I need
the
to
fake
start
news
that.
media said, who is the most? He was the doctor for Obama, Bush, and Trump. That's pretty good, right? White House doctor for the three of us. He said, the press, who is the healthiest of the three? He said, definitely it's Donald Trump. There's not even a contest. And I love that guy. When he said that, JD, when he said
There's
that, I
nobody
said, I like
healthier.
this guy.
There's nobody
So then
healthier.
he said, you know, sir, he was leaving the White House. He said, you know, I'd love to run for Congress. And he ran against 28 people. They were all running for the Republican primary because
That's
whoever
right.
won that primary is going to win. I think it's a Trump plus 48. Whoever wins gets 48-point start. And not only did he win, he won easily. And now he's one of the most popular people in Congress and one of the most talented, maybe more importantly. Ronnie Jackson. Ronnie? Where's Ronnie? Where is you? Oh, good. Thank you, Ronnie. And you got a lot of talent surrounding you there. I think it's very important also. We're here for a reason, and that's to win and to honor Corey. But Corey wants us to win, too. And there's a man in the audience that's been very much a career path, a little bit like J.D., great student, great talented student, and fantastic in the military, then went out to be a tremendous success, one of the most successful people on Wall Street, actually. And he's tough and he's smart, and he's going to make sure you always have fracking in Pennsylvania. And he's going to make sure you have many other things other than fracking. You have a senator that now does nothing. He does nothing. And he doesn't fight for you. He votes with Biden, if you can believe it, like 100% of the time. But this guy, and you know, we're lucky that he does it. I don't know. He might not have done it if he had it to do again. I don't know. But I think he's just one of the most outstanding people anywhere in the country to run for office. And we're lucky that he's doing it, and he's got a real shot. He's doing very well in the polls. It's hard to beat somebody that's been there a long time, but this is somebody that's been there a long time and did nothing. He did nothing. And his name is David McCormick, and he's great, and I hope he's going to be your next senator.
McCormick, isn't that for Pepper?
And I see somebody else I didn't know he was here.
Thought.
Mike Kelly. I see Mike Kelly. Stand up. Oh, boy, am I lucky. Am I lucky I spotted him? If I didn't spot you, Mike, I was in big trouble, right? This is a man who's beloved in this state, and he's fantastic. So thank you, Mike. Thank you. We also
It's getting
have
darker earlier.
some
Biden's in bed by now.
terrific people from law enforcement.
Biden's
Butler
asleep?
County Sheriff Mike Sloop.
Y'all think he's asleep by now? It's 6 p.m.
Thank you, Mike. Great job. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for your help, too. I could tell you. Thank you for your help. I can say that. Thank you very much.
Sleeping since 4
Butler
p.m. When do you
County
wake up?
Commissioner
3 p.m.
Leslie Oshie. Leslie,
Oshie.
thank you. Thank you, Leslie. Great job. RNC Chairman Michael Watley. This guy is doing a great job. He's doing great. Came from North Carolina. We won North Carolina. He kept their cheating down to a minimum, and we were able to win it, and we were solid all night long.
That's right.
He's great, but if we don't have good results by the 6th of November, I will never say that about him again. No, he's a great guy. He's working very hard. 24 hours a day he's working. I know that. And he's working mostly on Stop the Steal, because we have a lot of votes. We have plenty of votes. Stop the Steal. That's why you've got to get out. You've got to get out and vote. We're going to win this thing. And the more we win it, you know, it's too big to rig. You know the expression we use, make it too big to rig. You know, at a certain point, Elon would understand this better than anybody. Statistically, at a certain point, their cheating doesn't matter. And we want to make it too big to rig. And we also have somebody that's very special, the co-chair of the Republican Party, Lara Trump. Thank you. Lara, thanks.
Uh-huh. Too big to rig.
And, you know, oftentimes with families, they say, oh, you know, why did you put that one in or this one in, and all the different people. So many people have problems with that. In her case, everyone said, how the hell did you get her to do it? She has been unbelievable, so thank you very much. Comes from North Carolina, and I have a feeling she's going to be spending some time down there a little bit.
The EU likes Trump.
She's married to my wonderful son,
Who are you guys going to
Eric,
vote
who's
for,
right here.
Trump
So,
or Kamala?
Eric, please stand up.
We got
He's a great guy.
one guy said
Eric
Kanye.
has a distinction. He has
guy's
gotten more
Kanye.
subpoenas than any man in the history of our country by about 10
Kanye?
times. Every day Congress would meet, they'd send him a subpoena. What is it about? They have no idea. But I think he's got the all-time record, and he's handled it all beautifully. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. A friend of mine, a great, great businessman, one of the most respected people, and he made a big, big contribution yesterday to Georgia and a big contribution to North Carolina. Steve Witkoff is here. Hi, Steve. Thanks. And another man who's one of the greatest businessmen in the country, he actually said that if Trump doesn't win, this country is going to go into a massive depression. Well, I don't know about that, but he said
That would be
been
bad.
a good predictor, I will say that.
That would be really bad.
Truly one of the greats, one of the great pickers, picker meaning stocks.
Paul?
He knows what he's doing, and highly respected by everybody. John Paulson. Thank you, John. Great.
His name was
Great
John
guy.
Paulson.
Now, we have so many others, and I won't do it because we have to really get out of here before it gets too cold for people. But I love it much better because there's one teleprompter. Not that I use the teleprompters too much. Isn't it nice to have a president that doesn't need a teleprompter? No, we don't need it. But this one was right smack in the sun. Great job back there, fellas. They said the teleprompters are working fine. Well, thank goodness. Did you see what happened the other day with the teleprompter with her? That was not a pretty sight. The teleprompter went off and she went off too. She didn't know what the hell happened.
She went off too.
And you know, teleprompters are very dangerous because they go off a lot. You have to be prepared for them to go off cold blank. You'll have 100,000 people. You have 75,000 people.
I feel like he's at his best when he's talking
teleprompter goes off.
shit.
You got to be able to move. She did not move well.
If he's
This
talking
was not a
shit,
good
like, bro,
situation.
he's in his element.
But three more heroes from July 13th who rendered first aid to Corey incredibly. Dr. Jim Sweetland. Rico Elmore, who was unbelievable. Rico, you were unbelievable.
Natural born shit
He
talker.
ran
yeah.
over, National Guard. He ran over and grabbed Corey, and Corey was still living, and he was doing mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on a man who was really in bad shape like nobody's ever seen, and his family appreciates it, and I do too. So thank you, Rico, very much. Right? Amazing, amazing, amazing the people that we have. And you learn about them under times like this. That's when you really learn. So we're going to be seeing Rico again. And Ed Shear,
Mouth to mouth on a man?
fantastic
That's
job.
gay?
Thank you, Ed.
Wait,
we appreciate
gay?
it. Thank you, Ed. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ed. Great job. In addition, this evening, we have to send our prayers and support to all the families affected by Hurricane Helene. This has been the worst hurricane response by a president and vice president since Katrina, and this is simply not acceptable. Those people, I
Biden
was
doesn't
there
care
yesterday
about-
with
wait, are there black
North
people there? I
Carolina
don't
and
know.
Georgia. And I'll tell you, and by the
Ask
way, the
Kanye.
governor of Georgia is doing an excellent job, but we have other people that aren't doing a good job.
Yeah,
and
whatever happened?
We have to have them
He
do a
should
good
bring
job.
Kanye to one of the
But
rallies.
the federal government is doing a very bad job. They are not doing the job, and we have death and destruction that
What
we
happened to
haven't
that?
seen maybe ever. It's a real bad one, and they have to get people there because they don't have people there. They don't have the people. Kamala wined and dined in San Francisco, and all of the people in North Carolina, no helicopters, no rescue. It's just what's happened there is very bad. They're offering them $750 to people whose homes have been washed away.
That's about right.
And yet we send tens of billions of dollars to
This
foreign
guy.
countries that most people have never heard of. They're offering them $750. They've been destroyed. These people have been destroyed. The one young lady washed, you saw that with her son. I mean, pretty, I wish I never saw it, but just washed away. His son was washed away with the grandparents. And so sad. And they're offering,
Migrants
they're
get
giving them
hotels.
$750.
That's right,
But think of it.
guys.
We give foreign countries hundreds of billions of dollars, and we're handing North Carolina $750. If you want a president who won't even try to save you when the floodwaters are rising, vote for Kamala. She's not the right person. Look, You know what? If they did a good job, I wouldn't have run. To be honest with you, I didn't need to do this. I didn't need to. If I thought they were doing an even modestly good job, I wouldn't have run. But I saw right from the beginning, grossly incompetent, and I was right about that. And I decided to run, and we're doing really well. I was telling you about polls. We're way up. In some polls, we're up in other polls.
We're up in
And with
some
the swing states, I think most of them have us up in every single swing state, including the great commonwealth of a place called Pennsylvania. And don't ever not call it a commonwealth, because I've seen people call it a state, and that's the end of them. That's practically the end of their political career. You got to be very careful with Pennsylvania. It's that
What the fuck is a
commonwealth. I
commonwealth?
haven't made that mistake.
It's like
I don't
some
want to
British
either. It
shit.
was not
Like,
a
I
pretty
don't fucking
picture.
know.
If you want a president who will stop at nothing to protect you and your family, I hope you're going to vote for a gentleman named Donald J. Trump.
Wow.
Have you heard of him? Together we will rebuild Western North Carolina, rural Georgia, and every other state that's been so badly affected. That includes Alabama. Virginia was very hit hard. South Carolina was hit very hard. Florida. So many states. Tennessee was hit
They
really
need to get
hard.
more guys like him
They were all
behind
hit,
Trump.
and we're going to work with them.
That,
And
like, do weird
the
shit.
next president is going to be the one that really wants
They do.
They got to get this done. But once that happens, the
It
next
just makes it more
president is going to be
entertaining.
the one that has to really help him, and JD will be there to help him.
Has
I
he
know
mentioned a
that.
single policy? Yeah. Getting
2024
rid
is
of
the
all
most
the
important
illegals.
election in the history of our country. And here are the facts. My opponent, Kamala Harris, is the most incompetent and far left nominee ever to run for president. You know, she's much further left than crazy Bernie Sanders. You know that. She wants to open borders. She took the most secure border in U.S.
Crazy
history
Bernie.
and turned it into the worst border in the history of the world. Remember, she was appointed border czar. She says she wasn't now after 3 years, but she was. But whether she was or
Good
not, she
old
was in
crazy
charge
Bernie.
of the border. And the other day I saw her get up and say, we will do this, we will do that. We're going to. Why didn't they do it 4 years ago? Why didn't they do it? The damage is so bad, and so it's been done. She let in 21 million illegal aliens from all over the world, from prisons and jails and mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're terrorists at record levels, at levels we've never seen before. She cost you $29,000 a family through inflation price hikes, and now she wants a larger tax hike. She wants to go the largest tax hike in American history. There's never been a tax hike like what she's proposing. She's going to raise your taxes a minimum of $3,000. She's a big taxer. And she was the original creator of Defund the Police. I think for all the sheriffs over here,
They
if
sent
you're
me
a partner in Defund the Police for even 2 days,
my
you
tax
cannot be
returns
president.
yesterday.
But she was one of the founders of Defund the Police, and she still believes that, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know how anybody could, but she still believes that. And if she ever had a chance, there's a good possibility she'd go back to it. Can you imagine? Somebody's robbing our house. Well, there's nothing we can do about it. That's what they say. There's nothing. You know, they tried it. And you know where they tried it? In Minnesota with our vice president. And it wasn't working out too well. It was working out very well for the robbers and the criminals. That's the only one it was working out well for. Kamala Harris vowed to abolish ICE. She wants mass amnesty and
ICE.
citizenship for illegals. And worst of all, she lost. And this is
Who do you
maybe
think's
the
gonna
worst
win?
thing in the
I think
whole.
Trump will
that
win.
Nobody talks. The fake news won't mention it. She lost more than 325,000 migrant children that are now dead in slavery or just plain missing, probably never to be seen again, never to see their parents again. But this isn't like, this is 325,000 have been lost. She praised the idea of a 70% to an 80% tax rate. She imposed a natural gas export ban on Pennsylvania, which is killing your
Sounds like
energy
a
workers
fucking
and your
bitch.
pricing. You know, you have one of the highest energy costs in the country, and yet you're sitting on top of a massive amount of energy that she doesn't want to get. It's been a disaster
People gonna
for
vote
your
for her?
state, and now she's vowed repeatedly. Now, all of a sudden, she changed her mind. But when, you know, with politicians, it's always the first statement that comes out to be the one they want. So she spent 14 years knocking fracking. We're never going to have fracking. We're not going to frack. All of a sudden, a little while ago, she came out, I love fracking very much. No, she'll go back to it. And she even endorsed free sex changes for illegal aliens in detention at taxpayer expense. I don't think Elon likes that idea. These are not ideas that Elon Musk likes too much.
We're doing
And it was just
free
announced
sex
yesterday in
change
California. And
operations
she
for
took this
illegal
one from me.
immigrants
I'm
in
so
detention
upset.
centers.
But think of it,
That's how it is.
that the far less than average governor, Gavin Newsom, has banned any and all ID requirements from voting and registering to vote. You're not even allowed to mention the fact, Elon, you're not allowed to mention the fact. You can't say, may I see your ID? If you do, it's a criminal act. This is a takeover of the country. You're not allowed to ask for an ID. If you do, it's a criminal count. Other Democrat states are following. This is only so they can cheat.
I think you should have to have ID to vote.
There's only one thing that you do this
If
for.
you can't get
so
an
that
ID,
you can
you're too
cheat
stupid
on
to vote.
elections. There's no other conceivable reason. Kamala Harris is a radical left Marxist. She is a woman that's not respected in Congress. She was laughed at Congress. Nobody thought she could win. You know, they did a
Sorry, not having
coup.
ID to vote? Oh, true.
Biden. Whether you like him or not, I'm not a particularly big fan, but we had a debate, and the debate ended, and all of a sudden they come to him and they say, we want you out. You're not going to win the
Sleepy
election.
Joe.
And he said, I don't want to get out. He got 14 million votes. If you believe in democracy or a system, he got 14 million
I
votes.
thought it was 80 something.
And she got none. She was the first one out, 22 candidates, and she never made it to Iowa. She quit before Iowa, and now she's running, and that's okay. But, you know, we spent $150 million beating Biden, and as soon as he was down and out for the count, they said, let's take him out. We'll give somebody else to run. Never happened before. We do a lot of firsts, I will tell you. We do a lot of firsts. But she's a person that rated even worse in every statistic than any other senator. She was rated at the bottom of the U.S. Senate. She's destroyed everything she touched, but the good news is that we have a plan to fix it. We're going to fix it. We're going to fix it fast. Nobody is going to stand for open borders. Nobody is going to stand for a bad military. Nobody is going to stand for education that's not proper. We're moving education back to the states.
They teach kids how to be gay now instead of math.
So we have, you know, in education, so important is what's more important than education, but we rank at the bottom of every list. They rank 40 major countries. We're at the bottom, but we're top of the list as the cost per pupil. We spend more per pupil, per student, than any other country anywhere in the world. So we're number one in that, and we're number 38, 39, or 40 every single time. And you have Denmark, you have Sweden, you have Norway, you have China. It's always a top five. Can you believe it? China's the top five. That's amazing. But we're going to move our education back to the states. So places like Indiana and Iowa and Idaho and states that you don't even hear too much of because they're so good and so well run, they're going to run their own education. And you know what's going to come out of that? A Denmark, a Norway, a Sweden, maybe, I don't even know, China. Can you imagine China with 1.4 billion people is a top five, and we're close to 40. We are 40 sometimes. Starting on day one, I will seal the border and stop the migrant invasion into our country.
We have to kick stupid kids out of school.
We will begin the largest deportation operation in the history of the United States. Dwight Eisenhower right now has that record. It's not, and by the way, it's not something I want to do. I dread having to do it, but we have no choice.
Yeah.
What they've done to our country is not even believable, especially the criminals, the criminal element that's in our country. And again, all over the world, crime rates are down because they've taken their criminals and they've dumped them into the United States. And you know what? I would have been worse than them. I would have had it done even faster. They've dumped them into the United States.
He's saying he would have done the same thing.
And it's dangerous out there. We're getting them out. We're getting them out quickly. And we will defeat inflation, and we will make America affordable again. And it's going to start with liquid gold. We have more liquid gold, oil, and gas under our feet than any nation in the world, including Saudi Arabia and Russia. We will become energy independent like we were just 4 years ago. You know, 4 years ago, we were energy independent. Can you believe it? And then we were going to become energy dominant. We will be dominant within a matter of months, and we will make so much money. We are going to drill, baby, drill. And we will again open Anwar. Ronald Reagan tried to do it. Every single president from before Reagan tried to do it, and I got it done. Anwar is the largest drilling site anywhere in the world. It could be larger than Saudi Arabia, could be larger than Russia. It's in Alaska. And I got it done, and we worked to get it done. And one of the first things he did was terminate Anwar, and that was going to take care of all of Asia. That was going to make us so much money. We would have paid off debt. You would have gotten, I gave you the biggest tax reduction in history. You would have gotten even a bigger one. You were going to be just very happy. You were going to say, I like that guy very much. 20 million Americans are behind on their electric bills right now. It was just announced. 20 million Americans, they're struggling to pay their monthly bills at a record rate. There's never been anything like it. And it's all because of their anti-U.S. energy regime, which has caused Pennsylvania electricity prices to raise almost 50%.
That's a lot.
We will cut energy and electricity prices in half within 12 months. We will have your energy prices, your air conditioning, heating, cars if you buy a Tesla, which is good.
Good one.
We will have your energy prices cut in half. It'll be cut in half within a period of 1 year from January 20th, which is the day we take office. And that's going to save you a lot of money. And that's going to, in turn, bring down the prices of everything because, you know, more than anything else, people tell me about the groceries. The groceries. They use the... And what they're talking about is food. Everything's going to be coming down when we do that. We're also going to get your interest rates way down. We will bring automobile manufacturing back to the United States at levels never seen before. And we will turn the United States into a manufacturing superpower again. It hasn't been there in many, many years. We had it started 4 years ago. The centerpiece of my plan for a manufacturing renaissance will be a 15% made in America corporate tax rate. In other words, if you make your product in the United States, you get a rate. So I cut it from 39% to 21%. Everyone said that was impossible. I got it done, and we had the best boom we've ever had. We did more revenue when we had it at 21 than when it was at 39. Think of it, much more.
Well, there it is.
The following year, we did much more. And then I'm going to take it from 21 to 15, which will make us the most competitive country in the world. Nobody will be able to compete with us. But that 15 rate only goes for those who make their product in America.
Why,
they have to make their product here, otherwise they pay 21.
This is
and we will
the
protect those companies moving into America and all of our existing companies with stiff tariffs placed on companies that don't move in. If they don't come in, if they don't want to make their product here, it's fine, but they're going to be tariffed. We have to protect our companies, and that's what we're going to do. The only way they can get out of paying those tariffs is to build their plants and factories in America. We may even be able to get Elon to build some of them. I think we will. And hire American workers for the job. We're going to hire American workers for the job. We will pass the Reciprocal Trade Act. If China or any other country charges us 100 or 200% tax, then we will likewise charge them a 100 or 200% tax. We had a lot of problems on that one with the Senate, and we're going to get that done. Think of it. They charge us, and we don't charge them. Now they charge us, we're going to charge them the same thing. Reciprocal, it's reciprocal. I will not let Mexico, China, or any other country sell cars into the United States to the detriment of our auto workers who will do better than they have ever done. We're going to bring back the car business like it was 50, 60, and 70 years ago. Everyone's going to want to be back here. And I will not approve Japan buying U.S. steel 70 years ago, the greatest company anywhere in the world. It was the greatest company anywhere in the world, and now we have Japan buying U.S. steel. I don't like that.
That's crazy.
We will deliver massive tax cuts for workers, and we will have a policy that I think is so great. No tax on tips.
Ooh.
No tax on overtime.
Oh.
And no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. No tax.
That's a lot.
And you know, when you think of it, our seniors were hurt so badly. Inflation has killed our seniors.
Just
You know,
how
they
about
have
no
a
more
fixed
tax?
income.
Just
It's
get rid
got
of it.
worse and worse every week, every month.
It's just
gotten worse
annoying,
and
bro.
worse, and
Like,
it's
every
just
year?
horrible. And they haven't gone down. They've only gone up. Prices have still only gone
Yeah.
up. And while working Americans catch up, we're going to put a temporary cap on the credit card interest rates
No
at 10%.
more.
People are
I
paying
don't know.
28% interest, 25% interest. I will always protect Social Security and Medicare with no cuts. We're not going to do anything with Social
tax for
Security, but they're going to
streamers?
destroy Social Security.
If you're a gamer,
because
you get
all
a
of
tax
the migrants
credit.
coming in are going on between Medicare, Social Security, other programs,
You have
and
to be a real
nobody
gamer,
is
though,
able
not
to
a
afford
mobile
it. I will
gamer.
settle the war in Ukraine. I will end
Oh.
the chaos in the Middle East, and I will prevent, I promise you, World War III. We're not going to have
Oh.
World War III.
Damn.
And right now, we're very close to having it.
Damn.
We will lead the world in space exploration. Thank you, Elon.
We're going to
We
go to
will
the moon.
lead the world in military, and we will reach Mars before the end of my term. Elon promised me he was going to do that. I don't know. Can you do that? Stand up. Can we do that? He wants to reach. I think he's going to do it. JD, work on him. Work on him.
Did you just throw that in there? Just out of nowhere?
Work on him. JD is working on Elon. Now, he told me that we're going to win, and he's going to reach Mars by the end of our term, which
Okay.
is a big thing. Before China, before
We go to
anybody,
Mars,
right?
that'd be
And
good.
my money's on that guy right there. We will rebuild our cities, including Washington, D.C., making them safe, clean, and beautiful again. And we will keep the U.S. dollar as the world's reserve currency. It's losing right now. It's losing right now, but I'll be able to do it. Other people won't. I'll tell these countries as they leave us I say, you want to do business in the United States? You're going back into the reserve currency. And if you don't, we're going to charge you a big, fat, beautiful tax to do business in the
Big,
United
fat,
States.
beautiful tax.
And they're going to say, I want to go back into the U.S. reserve currency. No, we're going to save it. But these people aren't going to save it. They don't know how to talk. They don't know how to think. Together, we will deliver
Ooh.
low taxes, low regulations,
Got
low
small
energy costs,
brains,
low
they're
interest
stupid.
rates, and low inflation so that everyone can afford groceries, a beautiful car, and a home. Very basic.
Look at the reflection. It looks
Very
like it's a halo. It does look like it has a
We
halo.
will stop
Look at
the
that.
invasion, end migrant
my
crime,
God.
strengthen our military, build a missile defense
I didn't
shield
even notice
around our
that, bro.
country. Keep
Oh,
critical race
God.
theory and transgender insanity.
Jesus.
We're going to keep it the hell out of our school. We're going to keep
He's
that
ascending.
insanity out of our school. And as I said, we will keep men out of women's sports.
It's crazy how that's even a talking point.
So demeaning to women. You saw that in the Olympics. They have female boxing, women's boxing.
oh,
And
God.
a young lady from Italy, very good boxer, very, very good. She was all excited, but she played a person who transitioned.
Not this.
Person transitioned, a male transitioned to a female.
No, she didn't.
And the young girl from Italy, beautiful young woman. I'm not allowed to say that anymore politically, but I'll say it. She was a beautiful young woman. If you say that, that's the end of your career, right? But it's not. If it is, so be it, okay? We've got to get back to real life. But this beautiful young lady is out and
He's saying she
gets
hot as
bumped,
hell.
little jab, left jab. And she goes back, oh my God, I've never been hit like that. This is just like a defensive. Then he goes, the corner say, you can take her. You can. So they push her out. Boom, another one. And she says, that's enough. I can't do it. I can't take it. I've never seen anything like. So we had two people that transitioned. Both people, shockingly, won the gold medal in their division. So it's crazy.
Ooh.
And if you look at weightlifting contests, they're the best of all. For years and years and years they go, they put an eighth of a pound on one side of the barbell, an eighth of a pound on the other, and they can't do it. And the record standing for 18 years, they just can't do it. And then a guy comes along who never lifted before, and he puts 100 pounds on, and he goes like this, like it's nothing. It's so demeaning to women. We're not going to allow it to happen. It's ending. No men playing in women's sports. And we will defend the Second Amendment, protect religious liberty, restore free speech, and we will secure our elections. Everyone will prosper, every family will thrive, and every day will be filled with opportunity and hope. We need hope. We need the American dream back, don't we? We're going to have the American dream. We're going to have the American
Olympian
dream,
a
so
man?
every
Yep.
kid in your family is going to grow up and say, I want to be like Elon Musk. I want to have
Of course.
I want to have 200 billion in cash. I'm going to be like Elon Musk. That's the American dream. But for that to happen, we must defeat
11
Kamala
million
Harris,
people
and we
watching it on
must stop
X?
her
Wait, really?
country-destroying, radical left agenda once and for all. We cannot have it happen. So you must get out and you must vote. Here in this incredible Commonwealth, we stand on the shoulders of generations of Pennsylvania patriots who gave everything they could give, every single thing for their rights and for their freedom. Pennsylvania is where our founding fathers declared American independence and sounded the beautiful Liberty Bell.
11 million
It's
bots.
where the Army weathered its
true.
brutal winter at Valley Forge,
That's
where
a fact.
General George Washington led his men on a daring
It's
mission
all
across
fake.
the Delaware, and where generations of tough, strong, beautiful miners and steelworkers put Pennsylvania spirit into every single thing they did. And from Gettysburg to Germantown and Philadelphia to Barron Hill, and from Brandywine to right here in Butler, this is the place where Pennsylvania patriots poured out their blood with the love of their country. They love their
God, it's such a pleasure to finally meet you. Oh my God.
We're not doing this.
I've been in your chat calling you Fussy Philly for like 6 months. I'm such a huge fan of a tier 3.
Who are you?
I'm your #1 fan.
Am
I
I
made
in
it into
public?
this world.
Okay,
I
listen.
wanted to spend time with you.
I'm not Dream, okay? I'm not famous.
This is 20-year-old Connor Fitzpatrick signing documents for a package he doesn't remember ordering. At this exact moment, he realizes it was all a setup to lure him away from his computer.
Pardon? Step out, please. Okay.
As two FBI agents arrest him, his distressed mother steps outside, trying to understand what is going on as 4 more agents swarm the house. Little does she know, her son is one of the FBI's most wanted, and the only thing on their mind now is getting to Connor's computer with it still on. See, Connor had a secret he had been keeping from his mom. He operated the world's most popular hacking forum dedicated to trading stolen data under the online handle PomPomPurin. Despite the cute avatar, Connor was a feared yet well-respected hacker. His forum was used to trade billions of stolen records from many of the world's largest companies. Later that day, a news truck captured this footage of FBI agents taking bags of evidence away in their black SUVs from Connor's family home in Peekskill, New York. I don't think these agents were prepared to uncover anything more than a few stolen databases on his computers. Yet, back in the lab, upon examining them, they found videos and photos so dark and disgusting that their discovery would later drive Connor to try anything to escape prosecution. I don't think Connor ever had a single real-life friend. Post-arrest, a classmate described him as, quote, a nice kid who was quiet and reserved and pretty smart, adding he was in a few AP classes. He also recalls a time when Connor disappeared from school for 2 months and then returned acting as if nothing happened. Quote, you could tell he had some sort of stuff going on. Little did he know, that stuff was raid forms. Founded in 2015 by Diogo Coelho, then going under the handle Omnipotent. This forum was dedicated to organizing the harassment of live streamers. They called this raiding.
Just pour it on the keyboard. Okay, yeah, that should be good. Oh my god.
Yeah. Get on fire.
Yeah, it's good, don't worry.
tricking and pressuring kids into destroying their things.
So right there.
Yeah, so just keep on pouring until I say stop. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Or embarrassing themselves for a couple of laughs.
More needs to be covered.
There.
As you can tell, things on raid forums had quickly taken a dark turn. At first, there was just users sharing guides on how to dox live streamers to get their personal information, which eventually led to Ice Poseidon getting swatted on a plane. But anyways, it pretty quickly also transformed into sharing malware, rats designed to take over a live streamer's computer, so they could control their computer and do weird stuff with it. Then people were writing custom malware, little tools that would spam shocking content, repeatedly launched the Meatspin website over and over again. And seeing the rising popularity of this stuff, and also I think having a bit of a personal interest, Diogo decided to better cater the forum to this audience, and by 2016 the website was all about hacking. Out of these new categories, one gained immense popularity: the leaks section. The leak section was actually like their pre-update. It was the place to find old data dumps, download them, search through people's outdated information, and poke fun at it. Many big companies have suffered data breaches which have exposed, well, probably your personal information as well, but millions of people's information. Emails, passwords, names, addresses, the list goes on. And a lot of live streamers, well, that's how they got doxxed. But within 4 years, the number of users on raid forums had grown to over 500,000, and more hackers and criminal groups were joining the forum specifically to use it as a marketplace to buy and sell new data dumps. If you know anything about ransomware, when a company doesn't pay up, often groups will leak their data, and raid forums is where many of these groups went to post it for other hackers to acquire and later use to crack accounts, launch phishing campaigns, steal identities. I mean, the list goes on and on. And among them was one user so notorious that he would soon single-handedly represent the entire data leaking community. His name, Pom Pom Purin. No one knew Connor was Pom, and he knew he had to keep it that way to not get caught. He first joined raid forums in 2020, just days after his 18th birthday, and he quickly took advantage of a detail in the leaks marketplace to gain notoriety. You see, it took credits to download data leaks that members had shared. There's 2 ways to get these credits. Number 1, you could purchase them for cryptocurrency, or number 2, you could contribute, share your own leak, and then when members downloaded it, well, you would get those credits for yourself. And the thing about Pom is, dude was a data hoarder. He wanted to download all of this illegal data on the website to make a complete collection for himself, but to do that, he needed a buttload of credits. Thing is, Connor knew how to break into companies, steal their private data, and so by 2021, he was making news headlines for sharing the private information of 250 million Americans, including names, emails, phone numbers, addresses, on raid forums apparently stolen from a marketing company. Later that same year, Connor successfully stole personal data from 7 million Robinhood users. You know that app that people on Wall Street Bets Reddit use, Diamond Hands, GME to the moon? Well, he tricked Robinhood into giving him access to their back-end internal company tools and extracted all this information. And reading this post, he was trying to extort Robinhood into paying him money not to leak it. They didn't pay up, and here he was looking to do a private sale for a 5-figure price tag. But here's the thing, you can't do all this stuff without attracting some unwanted attention. On November 12th, 2021, thousands of US citizens received this disturbing email from an official FBI address warning that the deadly hacker Vinitoria from the Dark Overlord group was about to commit a cyber attack against the US. Later that night, Brian Krebs, a well-known cybersecurity journalist, received an email from the same FBI address reading, quote, "Hi, it's Pom Pom Purin. Check the headers of this email. It's actually coming from FBI server. I am contacting you today because we located a botnet being hosted on your forehead. Please take immediate action. Thanks." Yeah, Pom hacked the FBI to troll these cybersecurity guys. Actually, the next day, Brian talked to Pom about it. He explained that he found a vulnerability in the law enforcement portal called Leap. Basically, there was a form that you would submit and an automatic email confirmation would get sent out after you did that, but he found an error in the way that it was coded that let him edit the post data, effectively allowing him to change the recipient and the contents of that email. Pom could have used this to issue fake subpoena requests, asking companies to send over his favorite thing, private data by fake court order, to post online. But instead, Pom chose to troll Brian Krebs and Vinitoria. As a matter of fact, before sending those emails, Pom personally messaged Vinny with a single word: enjoy. See, Pom had a personal beef with Vinny. Vinny's a cybersecurity researcher, had done an investigation into this guy called Christopher Munier, alleged that he was the mastermind behind major hacking groups including the Dark Overlords, Nastic Players, and Shiny Hunters. And Vinny saw that, well, Chris had a certain connection with the alias Palm. Palm made this post on raid forums sharing the database of a company called Act Mobile. And there's a bunch of different download links because, well, these companies would reach out to whoever was hosting the download of their private database and get it taken down. And so it was pretty common to post 4 or 5 different download links. One of them is on a domain called og.money. And Vinny had previously apparently found out that og.money belonged to Christopher. And so he makes this, well, logical jump. Maybe Palm, his real identity, is Christopher. Palm did not take kindly to this, as you can tell. Maybe it's because it was the only person that was at least publicly hunting for his true identity, but he wasn't going to leave that accusation without consequence. It got really dark, actually. Earlier in the year, Palm had hacked into the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children to publish a blog framing Vinny as a predator who was wanted for kidnapping a 7-year-old boy. This retaliation campaign earned Connor and his alias Palm a lot of respect within hacking circles. Respect he would use when the inevitable happened, when raid forums got raided. In early 2022, anyone who visited raid forums found themselves mysteriously logged out. Upon attempting to log in, they would again get redirected to the login screen. People started speculating that something happened. Someone noticed the domain was now actually connecting to a different server. A few days later, all suspicion was cleared as the entire website got replaced with this notice. The FBI had somehow taken control of raid forums, set up a fake login page to collect usernames, passwords, and IP addresses of anyone who tried to log in. Then news broke. The owner had been arrested in late January. 21-year-old Diogo Coelho had flown to the UK from Portugal to visit his aging mother who had fallen ill. This finally gave the Department of Justice the chance they had been waiting for. Upon landing, several police officers took him into custody at the request of the United States. In an ironic twist, this arrest and coordinated takeover meant the FBI now had access to the raid forums database, including all users' private messages, a goldmine for finding information on the true identities behind many of the forum's most notorious members. This was a big win. The United States, well, they had been after Diogo for years. Diogo was 14 when he founded raid forums, an age where OPSEC was not his first concern, to say the least. The FBI had known who he was for nearly forever, but they had to get him after his 18th birthday and in a country where they had a chance at extradition. As of March 2024, Diogo is still fighting for the UK government to block that extradition request to the US, where he currently faces up to 52 years in prison. Facilitating data leaks, particularly of US companies, carries a significant risk. So after 7 years and over 500,000 registered members, raid forums was gone. I did an entire video on raid forums actually, and I want to play the end of that video for you.
Anyway, raid forums are shut down, so now there's no more problems with exchanging data breaches. Except, that's just not how it works.
It only took 2 weeks for a prolific member, Pom Pom Purring, to recreate the website. They were sick of, quote, all the stupid people trying to take the empty spot raid forums once filled.
I'm not going to name what it is for the same reason I never named what raid forum was before. For all intents and purposes, looks identical to raid forums. Obviously the same software. It's even the same styled fav icon with an acronym for the name of the site. And everything's just moved to somewhere else.
The website's community has been transferred into the hands of someone who is seemingly much more sophisticated. Not just a 14-year-old that kind of inadvertently fell into the role of a cyber kingpin. Yeah, Connor, well, this might have been the only place where he was truly respected, and he was willing to risk it all to bring it back. I think this makes the perfect time to introduce Guardio, the sponsor of this video. So there was this website called WeLeakInfo. For a few dollars, you could search anyone's email and see their exposed passwords. Now, WeLeakInfo ultimately got shut down by the FBI, but they forgot to secure all the domain names associated with it. And Connor, well, or someone else, it's not clear by his post, registered that domain, found that it was used to sign up for the Stripe account to accept credit card payments on the site, and likewise, they were now leaking all those records, names, addresses, phone numbers of other hackers using that service, which is crazy because, I mean, these are people in Palm's community. Anyways, I wanted to mention this in specific because even though it got shut down, there's so many other services like it, and the trouble is they make the barrier of entry of abusing leaked data non-existent. This is where Guardio comes in. Among many great features, they monitor your information, will give you real-time alerts if it's been leaked anywheres on the dark web, passwords, credit cards, addresses. This way you can take immediate action to be ahead of the scammers. So Guardio will help you with this stuff that you can't really control, but there's also the other side of it where it's like people are constantly trying to infect you online to steal your private data. So another thing that commonly got posted on raid forums was something called stealer logs. Here's a post of a guy trying to sell 230,000 of these. So this is malware like Redline Stealer. If you accidentally download it, it'll take all your saved passwords and credit cards on Chrome. It'll steal your crypto wallets, VPN connection details for work, like specific files, all these crazy options. And this usually comes in the form of an email. And stealers will even take your session tokens from your browser, which allows a hacker to log into your account and completely bypass two-factor authentication. That's why they're so popular. The great news is that Guardio is super good at blocking these types of scams and malware from ever getting on your system. Their email monitoring would have prevented me from ever seeing that phishing attack to begin with. And if it slipped through, their extension protection would have identified and neutralized it before it could do any harm. Guardio detects threats before they even reach your browser, unlike traditional solutions that only address threats after they've infiltrated your device. That's why it's used by over 1.5 million people. I think my favorite thing is you can protect up to 5 of your family members under one account. So, if you want to safeguard against these cyber delinquents, go to my link, guard.io/crumb. You'll get a free off your amazing deal. Forms seized, many reboots started to crop up. Look, there was the potential to make a lot of money running the forum, but these all ultimately flopped. According to Connor, people began asking him to recreate the forum, having been such a notable member. And how could he say no to that? So on March 5th, 2022, Breach Forums goes live. Most importantly, Palm had something all the other reboots lacked. He had a backup of most of the databases that were previously up on raid forums, and so he was able to immediately list them for download, of course for credits. Coupled with him being damn brazen, like he started replying to law enforcement takedown announcements on Twitter, advertising his reboot and offering old members their paid ranks back free of charge. He did a really good job at winning over the community, and likewise, they flocked back in droves. Connor was now also making a lot of money, hand over fist, from the credit system. I can't stress this enough, he was also more technical than Diogo. The forum was truly running smoother than ever, and I think the criminals on there felt safer than ever. Him constantly playing the bad guy publicly like this gave users confidence that, well, law enforcement wasn't going to get their hands on it this time. He also assumed the role of, well, the website's lead middleman, something Diogo had been doing. See, when someone was selling a data leak to a private buyer, or anything else that someone would want to sell on the website, really, you can't really trust the buyer to send the money once you send them, you know, this stuff that you worked hard to hack. It's a forum full of criminals, after all. So Connor would act as, well, a trusted third party. He would hold the money, verify that the data was real. If all looked good, he would facilitate the exchange. He offered this service completely for free, just asked for tips and donations. You can see here, this post was last edited November 2022, and that was to update the note at the bottom, stating that he's middleman a total of $430,000 US. This was 8 months into the forum's history. Fun side note, the FBI actually purchased multiple databases from Diogo on raid forums, using him as a middleman to further bolster their case against him. A risk that, well, Connor was surely facing now too. Needless to say, this professionalism was the reason the website thrived. Breach forums looked like a huge FU to the FBI. They had shut down raid forums because, well, sensitive information was being leaked there. And now, the leaks were back and stronger than ever. But some of these leaks were now threatening the national security of the United States, and so Palm faced a very tall order to not get caught. You know, the thing about data leaks is that they get a lot of news attention. If you watch my video on Arion Kurtage, he was hacking companies alleging that he stole data just to make news headlines when, towards the end of his run, he wasn't really taking anything. One leak in particular broke breach forums. On June 20th, a user joined under the handle China Dan posted this message, leaking the Shanghai National Police database. 23 terabytes of names, IDs, phone numbers, even criminal records belonging to 1 billion Chinese citizens were available for the small price of 10 bitcoins, at the time worth $200,000. Chinese social media went nuts. Hack became a trending hashtag. Likewise, a whole bunch of people from China began rushing to breach forums to find the leak. There was so many that the forum got completely overrun, and they had to post this welcome post written in Chinese explaining the situation. Now, this was short-lived because, of course, it attracted the attention of the Chinese government, who quickly banned the website from being visited within China. But this was just the beginning. I mean, the US doesn't care too much about Chinese databases getting leaked, right? All hell truly broke loose on December 10th, 2022, when a user under the name US DoD published this sales thread featuring a leaked database from InfraGard containing, well, the details of 80,000 members. InfraGard is a platform that connects critical infrastructure owners in the US directly with the FBI to provide them information and intelligence on, well, security risk and threats. Critical infrastructure owners is the key word there. People that own pipelines, financial institutions, telecommunication companies. You know, a year prior, Colonial Pipeline had faced a ransomware attack which led to states along the East Coast having widespread fuel shortages. And this leak, well, it could mean more incidents like that because key members at these companies had their information exposed here, putting them at risk for attacks like SIM swaps and phishing campaigns. Now, this member even went on to do an interview with Brian Krebs, presumably to attract more attention to a sale. He admitted to Brian that he was actually able to gain access to the platform by just faking his information as being a CEO of one of the leading financial companies in the US. And well, the FBI granted him access, and then he was able to find a bug in the API and write, again, another little script to get all of this information. He even told Brian that, well, Palm agreed to be the middleman for this deal. I think that's something that, well, might have given the FBI a little more motivation to put Palm behind bars. But just in case that wasn't enough, the final straw to break the camel's back would be the hack of DC Health. On March 6, 2023, the user Intel Broker posted a database to the marketplace. 60,000 names, email addresses, birth dates, home addresses, social security numbers, and insurance policies stolen from DC HealthLink, an insurance company that served the nation's lawmakers and Washington residents. Among those in the breach were at least 21 current members of Congress, more than 1,800 people somehow connected to Congress, and hundreds of people linked to 20 different foreign embassies. But shortly after the post goes up, it mysteriously gets taken down. 3 days later, on March 9th, another user with the name Denver, whose signature reads "Glory to Russia," is posting it with 200 records provided for free as a sample. Then, on March 12th, Denver just shares a link to the full dataset for free. What the heck is going on here? News later broke that the FBI had purchased the database from Intel Broker on the 8th. This is something the FBI has been known to do. When leaks get sold, it's often meant to be a private sale to one buyer only. So in the case of sensitive data like this, the FBI has been known to purchase it in hopes that it won't get into the hands of threat actors. But this time, it seems they knew the FBI was the buyer, and this was meant to be a huge middle finger to them. A middle finger that wasn't going to be taken lightly. It was time for them to put an end to this once and for all. How do you find a sophisticated hacker who appears to have taken significant steps to hide their real identity to the point of being confident enough to hack and troll the FBI? Turns out, Connor's persona was more of a roleplay than reality. So, you know how the FBI got Raidform's entire database with the arrest of Diogo? Well, the The first thing they did was look at the private messages sent by Palm, hoping for any clues. And one such interaction caught the FBI's attention the most. In 2020, still new to the forum, Palm messaged Diogo with a complaint. He had purchased a stolen database from a company called AI.type, a company he had apparently registered with before the hack took place. Likewise, he searched for his email expecting it to be there, but to his surprise, it wasn't. Therefore, he thought that this database only had partial data, yet it was being advertised as a full leak. Palm was a stickler about this sort of thing, wanted Diogo to change the listing. Diogo wrote back, quote, "What email did you look up and how?" Palm replied that he didn't want to, quote, share his actual email for obvious reasons, but described connorfitzpatrick02@gmail.com as an email that seems to have the same case. The FBI couldn't believe it. Did Palm seriously just share his real name? They quickly subpoenaed Google to reveal more information. Records came back revealing that the account was registered under a Verizon IP address to a customer with the same last name. Connor's dad was paying the internet bill. Then they searched that Verizon IP address in the raid forums logs for login attempts and found that Palm had logged into his account many times without using a VPN. Worse, they found that the IP address was used to register a Zoom account under the email pompompern@riseup.net, which was the address originally used to sign up for the raid forums account. They had no doubt that the prolific hacker hiding behind a cute Hello Kitty avatar was indeed Connor Brian Fitzpatrick from Peekskill, New York, born in 2002. And knowing his name and address, they began conducting physical operations. See, by the time Breach Forms was created, Connor had smartened up. He was using VPNs all the time. So in October 2022 and February 2023, unbeknownst to Connor, FBI agents were sat outside his house, monitoring his Breach Forms profile to confirm that he was indeed logged in, because there was a little active flag on the profile, while simultaneously looking through his windows to make sure he was sat in his computer chair. They had their man. And now it would only be a matter of time before the agents got the order to actually knock on his door instead of just sitting outside it. But I think that moment would come a little quicker than usual. If you've watched my other videos, you know that the feds normally take, well, sometimes years to collect evidence, build their case to ensure a strong conviction. But with the scale of the recent hacks, the pressure was on to act fast. Breach Forms had just celebrated its first birthday, and Palm's profile noted that he was currently online. This was the cue law enforcement had been waiting for, to send a fake USPS mailman to the door, asking Connor to sign for a package that he never ordered. They wanted to make sure that Connor didn't have the opportunity to destroy any evidence, so this would be an ideal arrest, if not for Connor's butt crack. A little later, a news truck captured this footage of the FBI taking evidence out of the home. Most importantly, they had secured Connor's Dell laptop along with a 4TB SSD. But the news didn't know yet who was arrested or even why. Meanwhile, on Breach Forums, people began to notice that their favorite owner hadn't been online for over a day. Suspicions were high. Then finally, the first news article breaks, and the lead admin, guy called Baphomet, makes this post confirming that Palm has been arrested. This was kind of a post reassuring members. He says that after not hearing from Palm for over 24 hours, he removed his access to critical infrastructure, and he's since been monitoring the website logs to make sure that law enforcement doesn't have access to the backend. Then he made this post saying that he's going to migrate the server infrastructure over to, well, essentially a new host to make it safer. But it was too late for that. See, a few days later, the affidavit got released. And, well, it confirms that Connor immediately cooperated with the FBI after the arrest. He admitted to investigators that he was indeed pom-pom-purring, that he created breach forms when people asked him to, that he was doing his middleman service on there, and that, well, he committed all those hacks against the FBI. He also revealed that he was making around $1,000 a day from people purchasing credits. And likewise, with this news, Baphomet was assuming the worst. And so on March 21st, he announced that he was shutting down the forum. Quote, "I believe we can assume nothing is safe anymore." Now, despite this, he goes on to end the post by giving hope that, well, it might not actually be the end after all, and that maybe a new forum is in store. While all of this
I
was
can do
going
whatever I-
down on Breached, Connor's parents had made a $300,000 bond to secure his release, on the condition that he surrender his passport, submit to ongoing police surveillance, and, most importantly, stay off the internet. The sentencing hearing was set 8 months out. November 17th, 2023 would determine his fate. This was good. It gave the feds time to finalize the details of the case and, more importantly, comb through Connor's devices for additional evidence. It seems he had something on there that he really didn't want them to find, because come April, news broke that Connor was taken by ambulance from his house. His neighbor saw him unresponsive, wheeled out on a stretcher on oxygen. News officials later reported that Connor actually tried to, well, himself, but nobody knew why, and it would remain that way for nearly 3 months. At this point, the forum had been shut down for a little over 2, but that was about to change. On June 12th, it was back, now run by Shiny Hunters. They made this post, and Shiny Hunters, we haven't talked about them yet, but they were still are, one of the most active data thieves since the days of raid forums, even more prolific than Palm. Baphomet had made a deal with them to try and restore Breach to its former glory, and this was under the exact same domain name that Connor had originally registered for the forum. This was, well, looking like it was about to be another embarrassment on the entire case. Now, I don't know what trick the feds pulled out of their hat, but 11 days later, they managed to finally seize the domain name, replacing the entire website with this image featuring a sad handcuffed Pom Pom purring. Wonder if they got the license rights from Hello Kitty to be able to do that. I don't think they need them. So there was a lot of suspense waiting for updates on what was going to happen to Connor. People were posting things like Free Palm on Twitter. And come July, they got that update. The feds had found 26 videos and over 600 explicit images of children hidden on Connor's computer and SSD, with many of the files named by age. He wasn't producing them, but he was downloading them off of the dark web, maybe using some of the funds he had made from breach forums to be able to buy those. Can't really go into the details too much here on YouTube, but as news broke, suddenly all the people posting that stuff on Twitter got much quieter, or even outright shifted their stance. Nobody was rooting for him anymore. The reason this went public in July is because, well, he signed a plea deal admitting that he was guilty to 3 charges. The first, operating breach, the second, selling stolen data, and the third, well, these images and videos. Not only had Connor now lost his legacy, but he was now essentially locked into losing his freedom. These charges alone could throw him behind bars for 30 years, but that would ultimately be up to a judge on November 17th. Until then, he was free to go home on a pretrial release. This was under some new conditions, different than his bail. He wasn't allowed to be around minors unless accompanied by an adult who was familiar with his charges. And they actually lifted the internet ban. He was allowed back online so long as he had monitoring software installed on his computer. This was a really interesting choice. And I guess good for Connor, because his sentencing hearing actually ended up being pushed back until January 19th, 2024 at the request of his lawyer. He was to do some different mental evaluations ahead of the trial to make sure he was of sane mind to actually stand trial, but I guess there was some delays in that process, and so that was the reason that the judge granted the extension. What's crazy about it is that 2.5 weeks before he was meant to actually go in front of the judge, the FBI was again raiding his house. The reason? He was caught using a VPN to access the internet without said monitoring software enabled. Likewise, he was detained, taken into custody, and this wasn't a good look for when he finally had to stand in front of the judge. Heading into the big day, I can only imagine what Connor felt. Prosecutors were asking for 15 years in prison. Remember, it could have been 30, but he had entered into that plea agreement, and so I think they were pretty confident that they were going to win, but guess the judge had other plans for Connor. Taking his mental health report into consideration, 79-year-old Judge Leona Brinkema sentenced Connor to 20 years of supervised release. You heard that right. He got supervised release. The specific conditions are that, well, he has to spend the first 2 years on house arrest with a GPS ankle monitor, and he wouldn't be allowed on the internet at all for the first year. But after that, any computer just has to be installed with special monitoring software, subject to unannounced checks. He also had to forfeit $698,000, which he had made from all this stuff that he had been up to. The feds had seized this from an Exodus and Coinbase wallet. It's crazy. I doubt his parents knew that he had this much money. Connor was also ordered to pay restitution for the losses incurred by the victims, but a specific amount is still to be decided. It's tricky business determining this sort of thing. Gotta get those companies to file complaints first, which will likely take many years, but he could be on the hook seriously for millions of dollars. Oh, and they put him up on the sex offender list. He's not allowed around zoos, playgrounds, that sort of stuff. The US government wasn't happy with this outcome though. They wanted to make an example of Connor, and like, this wasn't it. Dude had already violated his pre-trial release, and like, now he was allowed out under basically those same exact conditions. He gets to live essentially a free life after those 2 years of house arrest. He can drive, work, use the internet. And so the US has since filed an appeal to this decision with the higher courts, hoping to get actual time behind bars, but it's going to take a long time before they get that day in court. While Connor has spent the last many months sitting in his bedroom, Breach Forums has been thriving without his presence. Despite having seized the domain in June 2023, like a phoenix, it again arose from the ashes under a new domain name, still being run by the Shiny Hunters. All the old members were back, posting new leaks crazier than ever. Till May 13th, 2024, when a user named Intel Broker sold data stolen from Europol. Just 2 days later, the forum was again seized by the FBI, this time with a picture of Shiny Hunters and Baphomet behind bars. Shiny Hunters, in the heat of the moment, quickly switched their Telegram channel to private and then delivered some devastating news. Baphomet has been arrested, and the FBI has got their hands on all the website's server infrastructure. Well, there's been no official confirmations of this arrest. Sounds like it could be true. We do know that Baphomet had access to all the website stuff from Palm, while Shiny Hunters was just doing the admin stuff. But this also doesn't make a lot of sense because 2 weeks later, the website was back up under the same domain, with Shiny Hunters running it. How'd they get the domain name back? How did they get the website back up so quickly? And then Shiny Hunters Telegram like mysteriously gets deleted. Come June 12th, 2024, they made this post giving an explanation for the Telegram channel, and then they go on to write that they're starting to lack motivation. 2 days later, they make another post announcing who the new forum owner is going to be, that they're stepping back, saying, quote, "It's hard to maintain motivation when you're constantly getting accused of being a honeypot." Yeah, since this weird string of events, people are speculating that even though the website is back up, it's actually now being run by the FBI, that instead of trying to keep it shut down, they're just gonna keep it up for a while, gather more data, get more people arrested. But I suppose for now, only time will tell.
Hello, guys and gals, me Mudahar, and today we're going to talk about how the FBI...
Well,
Hello?
Oh, Mayoshi, oh my god. It's such a pleasure to finally meet you, oh my god.
We're not doing this.
I've been in your chat calling you Fussy Philly for like 6 months. I'm such a huge fan of a tier 3.
Who are you?
I'm your #1 fan.
Am I
made
in
it into
public?
this world,
Okay,
I
listen.
wanted to spend time with you.
I'm not Dream, okay? I'm not face revealing. I don't want you... Did you just eat your fingernails?
Oh no, I was licking my fingers, so when you shake my hand, I'll have your germs, and it's like I almost indirectly kissed you.
You cannot. No. Whoa. How about an air hug? Who wants an air hug?
I'll breathe in your air.
Okay, do you want... Both sucking worse than a Costco vacuum. Are you okay?
Oh, you know a thing or two about sucking badly. I am a #1 viewer of your stream. I have 1.4 million channel points, I'll have you know.
You have no
Well,
channel points and no hoes, and my mods should ban you. Frick you.
Oh, to be banned by your mods. No, Fuzzy Philly, yes.
I'm gonna block you. I'm gonna block you. Any last words? Any last words?
Thank you, my queen.
Shut up. Bro, this is ridiculous! Why? Am I ending up in this situation? Here, okay. Do I unblock them, chat, or nah? Do I unblock? That frog is just like me. You blocked your future husband. Bro! Here. Okay. Yo!
Oh, hey, what the...
You're hot!
Yo, what is that? What is that?
Whenever.
What happened to the tier 4?
Freaking me out.
Get off your knees!
Sorry,
You're making me
we're
concerned.
gonna do like a collab. Okay, well, if I get off my knees, I don't want you to like see a hit by accident and get banned immediately.
Don't Dan Twitch me, please, bro.
I'm just concerned for you as a VTuber, you know, since we're both that, and definitely not VR chatters. Ugh, so gross.
Chat, VR chat is cringe. I am a little bit sweaty. I'm currently wearing sweatpants. Here's what I'm gonna do. I
mean, you
gotta
are
take
pretty,
off my
you know.
sweatpants. Here. Okay, I have to tickle my pants. Don't make this weird.
Okay.
Here.
Oh, wait, I know someone who would love to see this, actually.
What? Who? Am I waiting or not?
No,
Okay.
go ahead. Please, please, I'm begging you. Please take them off. Please.
Bro, now I can't. You are cocking me.
My queen!
You're making it so weird.
It's not weird. I just imagine me as one of your viewers. Look, look. I'm watching with them. Look, look, look. Go ahead.
He's in the cock chair. You frick you. How about come here, 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 come here. If you want to watch me, you have to turn around, snap your neck backwards, and then you can. Go on, do it. Do it, fool.
All right. Oh. Ah! Ah!
There you go. Okay, chat. All right, let's do it here. All right, you're good. You're good. You're good. You good? Uh-oh. You good?
I'm always good for you, baby.
Why are you floating?
I also dropped my headset.
You dropped your headset on the floor. What is happening? What the frick? Is this Oliver Tree coming down to Earth? What is happening?
I'm watching you, my fussy furry queen.
Stop saying that! Chat! Chat, if you think it's cringe in the chat window, imagine hearing this in real life! This makes me want to pull out a loaf of bread, slice it manually, so I can make a sandwich and stay in the kitchen forever, and give up on any hopes and dreams and ambitions.
You're more than that. You're my Oshi. You don't belong in the kitchen because you're already a flat board. Why do we need two in there? We already have the chopping board. It's flat as fuck, just like you. We don't need another.
Flat AF? What am I, a tire?
Yeah.
Like, why are you gonna cook me like that?
No, tires are round. You're more like a stick guy.
Okay,
You know?
I'm a stick. What am I, Flat Stanley?
Oh, it kind of set me up to insult you now. Oh, my bad. I'm trying to just be your fan. My bad, my bad.
Okay, okay. If you're my fan, then how about I give you a pickup line?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, chat. Guys, give me a pickup line. I'm gonna try it on a fan. We have a real fan right here. Come on.
That's true. I won the tier 3 raffle.
You won the tier 3 raffle. That's a wrap. Cringe, please, no help. It should have been me. Does anyone have a pickup line?
Surely your viewers believe that you have Riz. You're Phillian, after all.
Dang, girl, are you China? Because when I look at you, my social credit goes down.
Man, I can't believe I'm tier 3 sub to this streamer. I'm really considering everything, actually. I think I might cancel my mom's credit card after that one.
Please. I don't want to work in a Subway anymore. I don't want to make another BMT. No more meatball subs that are vegan, please.
See, there you go, talking about balls again. Now it's Subway, meatball sandwich, golf, and Pokemon. It just always circles back every time. I can keep doing it.
Dude, fine. Are you a suit?
No.
Because I want to wear you.
Oh, okay.
Jeff Dahmer. No! Hey!
I like your backpack. I'm a little Yoda.
Frick you, Dora! Help! There's a map on me! Chad, there's only one way to solve this.
Thrown just like my idol.
Guys, my Make-A-Wish is over. 3, 2, 1. Come here. Stay there! I'm sorry it's gonna be this way! I'm sorry it's gonna be this way! Frick. Chad, I get a little quirky at night. Okay, really? You're gonna hit the thumbs up emoji? What is this? This is so stupid.
My little frog body.
Shut up. Okay, go back to being a girl. God dang it.
Fine. I'll go back to being hot. Whatever.
Whatever. Wrong time to join. Guys, there is not a better time to join. This is literally the effing life, okay? Put a girl on? True.
Yeah, we're doing WWE, bro. This shit's more real than Logan Paul versus Mike Tyson, okay? Logan, right?
Mark my words, I am going to do WWE lube wrestling in the future.
Oh god, that's gonna be horrible. It's like wrestling a Looney Tune, dog. Like
exactly. It's gonna be
when
two
you get in the ring
ditties.
and it's like Mickey Mouse and she's going.
I mean, it's kind of gonna be like that. So okay, so I've always wanted to do mud wrestling. You know mud wrestling?
What are next?
What recently?
Damn. Just damn. I wasn't sure if they could do it. But they did it. So visually this is gonna be a bit of a boring video because I'm literally just gonna stand here and talk about what I've just seen. Many of you may remember that we did these kinds of reviews when Arcane originally came out. And there I had a spoiler-free section before we dove into all the spoilers. Since then, however, I've learned that what most people do, and this is exactly what you should do too, is that they wake up and the first thing they do is watch Arcane before they go on the internet. And trust me, if you don't do that, there is a really high chance that you are gonna find spoilers. Because people love to talk about Arcane. And there is a good reason why. So, just in case you are watching this video before watching Arcane Season 2, at least the first act, here is a very quick spoiler-free review. This is good. The first episode is actually good. I would say it's about a 7 out of 10. There was a lot of holes that Riot had to fill after the ending of Season 1. And man, did they fill all the holes and gave us some more. Which means they had very little time to wrap everything up, and then it was just League of Legends. Yeah, most of the first episode was action. There were awesome fights, awesome action, and not a lot of political talk. And when I say political, I really mean just different relationships mixing up. And that is what Arcane always excelled at. Arcane knows how to move its characters around. In the first episode, it didn't happen that much. It was mostly a resolution of what came before. Episode 2, however, was nuts. Legitimately, episode 2 of Act 1 of Season 2 might be my third favorite episode in the entirety of Arcane. The best one is probably episode 3 of Season 1 for obvious reasons, with the second best being the finale of Season 1, also for obvious reasons. But now, I love episode 2 of Season 2. And then of course episode 3 came in and I didn't think it would be able to top off what I've seen. And yes, for the most part that was about 8 out of 10, with episode 2 being about 9 out of 10. But then the last big scene of episode 3 bumped it all the way up. So overall, this show is still firmly standing on its feet. And if you loved Arcane 1, you're gonna love Arcane 2. Which means let's now dive into spoilers. First of all, I have to mention this tweet did not age that well. Outside of that, it is amazing how well Riot can shape their characters into entirely new spots. For example, it is amazing to see how Arcane is now trying to shape Caitlyn into a really hateful person. Of course, there is a reason behind that. Caitlyn is not exactly alone in this, and there might be someone else kinda manipulating her. But if anything, this alone proves that Riot is just really good at collapsing and reshaping expectations. I also love how now the roles swapped and Vi is the more reasonable one in their relationship. Before, it was the exact opposite way. But yes, overall, episode 1 is mostly about action and paying tribute to what came before, with the one big exception being the setup for Ambassa. From the beginning, she's kinda being ramped up, and then she gets the big payoff at the end. And also, because every episode needs to have a really cool cliffhanger, at the end of episode 1 we got Singed. Now it should be obvious that Singed is likely trying to gather the essence of the wolf, or in this case, Merkwolf. Why would that be? It should be pretty obvious. Also, some people are wondering if Singed is now in the Freljord. I don't wanna be the lore nerd here, but I guess I will be. But going from Piltover to Freljord would take several weeks. We are talking about a month-and-a-half long journey to Freljord and back. How do we know this? Well, we know how long it takes to travel around Runeterra using boats. And the shortest way to Freljord using a boat from Piltover would be 3 weeks. I told you I might be a nerd. So nope, the likelihood is that Singed is in the Great Barrier. That is the mountain pass that is right north of Piltover. Anyway, continuing on to episode 2, in my opinion, this was the better pilot episode. This is the episode that really set in motion what season 2 is gonna be all about. And I really loved every single setup that appeared here. We got Victor waking up from the stasis, which by the way, I really loved how while Victor was in the stasis, the only thing you could see was his face. The face was the last remnant of his humanity at that point, which is the exact opposite of what Victor is in the game. He becomes known for wearing the mask, which is an awesome parallel. I also love how Victor's glorious evolution is being slowly set up here. He is essentially a magical messiah that is turning Shimmer into something better. And again, there is a parallel where Victor kinda becomes the mage that once saved Jace. Although I will say, once Victor woke up from the stasis, that scene where he separated from Jace happened kinda too quickly. And I understand that there is a lot of storylines you're working with, so you have to be fast, but I wish that relationship had a bit more time to develop. It really felt like Victor just woke up and told Jace that I don't belong here, I'm just gonna walk away, goodbye. Another thing I want to mention here is that before Arcane, Victor was my favorite character. I simply loved the story of him doing what might be questionable things to really improve human life. In a way, he's not doing the exact same thing here. Here, it seems like he is purely just helping people. But what I wanted to point out is that Riot is really just replacing one good story with another good story. I truly believe that the old version of Victor as well as the new one are great. So yes, I'm a bit sad that his story is different, but it's still amazing. And speaking of being amazing, I love the new relationship between Echo and Heimerdinger. The two just landed together so well. And I love how the two are used as a setup to learn about the fact that something weird and magical is happening around Piltover. And they learn about that as the Firelight Tree becomes slowly corrupted. And speaking of pairing characters together, I absolutely love Jinx and Savika. These two characters, which hated each other in the past, are now together, and it absolutely makes sense. Their bonding over Silco's death is just so good. And the scene where they fight Smeech, where Jinx essentially gave Savika a Gamba arm, became one of my favorite fighting scenes in this series. I cannot express just how much I love these two now. Now, what I will say is slightly questionable in Season 2 is the introduction of Arcane, which is whatever this golden thing is. You see, the world of Runeterra already has a lot of different threats, and it has a lot of different powers afflicting the world. So it didn't really make sense for Riot to decide to just introduce a new one. For example, instead of the Arcane, they could have used the World Runes, which is a magical power that is set up in a very similar way. Which makes me think that maybe all of this is set up in such a way that by the end of Arcane, the Arcane is gonna be shut down or it will disappear or something like that. Because as of right now, it almost feels like it doesn't fit into the world. The thing is, this is absolutely an issue of someone who already knows a lot of the lore of League of Legends. To the people who watch Arcane but they don't care about League of Legends, yeah, it's totally fine. Because as a purely isolated story, Arcane just works. With that said, I have to also point out one more thing. Episode 2 proved to me that Riot knows what they are doing with the lore now. When Arcane 1 came out, Arcane was still a separate universe from the core canon universe. And it wasn't until about a year later when Riot decided that they are just gonna merge every version of League's lore into one canon universe. Which means that during Arcane 1, they weren't really sure what would be and wouldn't be canon, so they weren't sure where they would put the Easter eggs. Or rather, they weren't sure what would make sense in the story context. But here, since they know what is canon and they know what is part of this world, Arcane 2 went wild with the lore references. You can see Janna being revered everywhere, and whenever there is Janna, Janna is used as a spirit that fought the Grey. This is all part of her canon story. And of course, the Grey is the toxic cloud that is separating Piltover from Zaun. This was also always part of the canon lore, and now it is finally being acknowledged. In Arcane 1, the Grey was simply ignored. But now they are paying attention to it, and it is worth it. These kind of references are simply all over the place now. And in episode 3, they lean all the way into it. So there, not only did Zone Grey become a major story point. By the way, Zone Grey is the official name, but in Arcane they just refer to it as the Grey. Though I will say that there might be slight changes to what it really is, because originally the Grey were just all the fumes that came out from the Zonaite factories. It is incredibly toxic and incredibly dangerous, but it is just fumes. In Arcane, it is kinda suggested that the Grey might be alive, or it might have some living elements, but that might either be in the head of Jinx as she witnessed it, or maybe it does have to do something with Hextech, as we'll see in a second. Anyway, in episode 3, Caitlyn continues to be more and more angry at pretty much everyone, and in the scenes where she's hunting down Jinx, it seems like she is more and more out of control, because sometimes she just shoots without thinking. And then there is something which I really wanna know your opinion on. You see, we always joked about the fact that it would be cool if the Black Rose was involved in what's happening in Piltover. From the canon lore's perspective, it would make sense. So, I did not expect Arcane to just fully lean into the Black Rose. Which means, yes, LeBlanc is now involved in what's happening in Piltover, because LeBlanc is the leader of the Black Rose. From the perspective of someone like me, who knows what the Black Rose are about, and who knows how the living, breathing world behaves around Piltover, this is amazing because it pays tribute to some really deep lore. But I wonder, to someone who doesn't really know who the Black Rose are and what's happening, what is their perspective on Arcane essentially introducing a whole new threat out of thin air? Because throughout the entirety of Season 1, Black Rose were never even mentioned. And so now it may feel like they came out of nowhere. Again, for someone like me, knowing the story, I know why they are there and I know what's happening. But to the general audience, this really might be a confusing move. So actually, please tell me, what do you think about the involvement of the Black Rose? Moving on, we also got the scene where Vi is afraid of Caitlyn changing, because of course she is getting more hateful. She promised that she would never change, and then someone got points on their bingo card. The only thing I can mention here is that I did not expect this to happen in episode 3. I thought this would be some kind of a payoff later down the line, but instead it is used as a really cool setup. Because now, Vi and Caitlyn are not in the best relationship. The Kate-Vi fandom is gonna have a meltdown. Also, I have to point out, the Jarvan misdirection was so good. During the memorial, you could see all the Jarvan banners in the background, and I got excited because now Demacia might be somehow involved. But nope, it was literally just an ad for a play that was happening in the Opera House. I don't know who thought about this, but it is so good. It is literally just a play about the crowning ceremony of the Lightshield family. Anyway, after that, I absolutely love how Jace and Echo bonded together. Of course, with Heimerdinger kinda being the middleman. And it makes sense why these two got together if you think about it. Because near the end of episode 3, we suddenly got down into the Hex Gate, and we saw the corruption that was happening all around them. We can have just theories and assumptions about this place, but I assume this is what happens when you mix organic life with Hextech. And with the Hextech Gate just shooting forward zeppelins full of people, it might make sense that it gets corrupted eventually. To me, this also feels like a setup that eventually the Hextech Gates are gonna be shut down. Because for the greater purposes of setting up the world, the Hex Gates don't really work lore-wise. Because if anything, they make the world feel smaller. If you can just jump into a gate and teleport across the world, traveling doesn't really feel that meaningful. So in fantasy worlds, you don't want to use that, which is why I believe that eventually it might just shut down. That is just a theory though. What we can point out is that yes, those anomalies really feel like some time shenanigans. Which is why it makes sense that Echo got a crossover with Jace. Whatever is happening with the Wild Runes and Hextech getting corrupted, it seems like Echo will figure out how to utilize the anomaly. But of course, this was then followed by one of the best scenes in the entirety of Arcane, and that is the fight between Caitlyn, Vi, Jinx, and Savika. That fight was just a masterpiece. It had so many tributes to not only Jinx's story, but also general lore. Did you notice that the Grey was actually held back by Janna's vault? with Jenna being the spirit of wind and fresh air. I'm gonna have a blast diving into the details. And I love how in the moment the Hexgate started going wild, all the Hextech inventions in that fight got unstable. But then, after Jinx essentially loses the fight, as a last resort, Savika fires off Jinx's surprise, who is mad because that wasn't supposed to fire just yet. Which kinda hints that maybe that was supposed to go off as Jinx dies. Anyway, the town got painted many different colors, Jinx escaped, and Mbessa started smirking every single time something explodes in Piltover. Because over these 3 episodes, Caitlyn really turned into an asshole. And it got revealed that is all because Mbessa set everything up. Mbessa was the one who set up Rani into ambushing Jace, by which she planted the seed of hatred in Caitlyn hating Zonite Barons, but she also set up herself and her Noxian army as a competent force. And very quickly, this bloomed into Caitlyn essentially becoming a villain. And the best twist of all happened right after that. Mbessa pledged her Noxian army to Caitlyn, so that Caitlyn can use it to ravage Piltover and Zone. Because at the end of the day, Mbessa is gonna be interested in taking over this city. And since it is the Noxian forces that are essentially doing that, when the time is right, yeah, Mbessa can just turn around and take the city. Also, I am very confident some of the German themes are definitely intended. Which is why I can't believe Riot did it again. I did not expect Arcane to just blow our minds again so quickly. They have what, 2 hours in total to do that? Which, sure, yes, that is technically the length of a movie. But goddamn am I convinced that the writers are not mortal beings. So now, following the new story direction, paying attention to the lore, which is now guaranteed to be part of the same canon universe, and twisting the characters in ways we haven't seen before while still making sense, Arcane is set up for an amazing future. And so, after watching Arcane 1, I said that Arcane is the best thing I've ever seen. Doesn't matter if we're talking about TV series, animes, or movies. Arcane was simply the best thing I've ever seen. And now, with the addition of Season 2, that did not change. So yes, Arcane continues to be the best thing I've ever seen. The only downside is that Balbog is dead. But worry not, because Miss Balbog seems to be still very much alive. Did you watch Arcane 1 a while ago, didn't have time to watch it again, and now you kinda forgot what happened there? Which is crucial before watching Arcane 2. Well, don't worry, because today we are recapping the entire story of Arcane 1, and we'll pay extra attention to all the details that might be important for Arcane 2. So let's get on it. Episode 1 starts with the infamous bridge scene, where Jinx and Vi are shown as kids and their parents died, meaning that they are orphans. From that point on, Vander stops fighting and kinda becomes their adoptive father. Vi and Powder then climb the rooftops of Piltover, which sets up the scene for the entirety of Arcane, and Powder says an interesting line that might be worth remembering. One day, I'm going to ride one of these things. Anyway, together the group breaks into Jace's lab. Here, Powder is set up as an artificer, or someone who knows engineering. Soon after that, they find a Hextech crystal and the entire lab blows up. This is followed by a chase scene where they are escaping the wardens, and they bump into Silco's goons. A fight breaks out, Jinx manages to escape, which is where she makes her first bomb, which fails and does nothing. Meanwhile, the rest of the bad gang got beaten, so the group then continues down to Zone, which is where Milo calls Powder a Jinx. After this, Vander is set up as the godfather of the underground, and we get our first look at Huck, our friendly merchant. Vander gets mad at the kids for trying to pull off these dangerous jobs, and here it is revealed that they learned about the lab from Little Man. So Vander insists that they stay out of Piltover's business, and he tells Vi that violence is not the way to go forward. Powder then finds her first chomper teeth in the garbage, which is where she realized she didn't lose all the crystals. So next, Vander and Clagger visit Banzos. This is a shop absolutely full of Easter eggs. Here, as Vander and Benzo talk about what happened, he touches his forearm as he says that wardens are not the worst enemy out there. Which is where we learned that it was Jace who shopped at Benzo's and Little Man, who we know is Echo, followed him, which is how they knew where the lab was. Shortly after that, the wardens arrive, which is where Marcus and Grayson are introduced for the first time. Of course, they are looking for whoever blew up the crystal in Piltover, and here it is revealed that Vander and Grayson had a deal. Piltover and Zaun would stay out of each other's business. The scene then goes to Powder in her bed as she's drawing faces on her inventions with crayons, foreshadowing all the sprays and tags. So with a bit of free time, Powder and Vi return back to the rooftops. Here, Vi shows Powder her bunny which got stuck above the streets. It was thrown up there by a bully. Powder then shows Vi the crystal she had. Vi tells her to keep it a secret and she says the line, "One day this city is going to respect us." After which the scene goes to Silco's lab. It is revealed that the gang member known as Deckard was indeed Silco's goon, and Singed is introduced for the first time as a scientist working on Shimmer. And here, during his first experiment, he jacks up a rat with Shimmer and possibly creates Twitch, we still don't know. And Silco hints that Deckard possibly volunteered to be the next experiment. Which is where we get to episode 2. We get Jace's perspective on the explosion that happened in Piltover. We learned that his experiments were funded by the Kiraman family, which is where Caitlyn is from. Here, the big explosion knocked Jace down and he started remembering his childhood. Here we see young Jace and his mother in harsh environment. They are about to die, but suddenly a mage appears who is or isn't possibly Rise. Using a ruined gem, he teleports them both to safety, and he gives the exhausted gem to Jace to remember that moment. Here, just remember that epic shot of the mage holding the world. That scene might come back. Anyway, Grayson then interrogates Jace in his exploded lab. And Victor is introduced as an assistant to the head of the council. He was brought here to remove anything dangerous, which included Jace. And so, Jace is taken into custody. In his jail, Heimerdinger visits him to talk about the dangerous experiments. Here, Jace reveals he is trying to control magic. And Heimerdinger tells him that arcane is dangerous. And when he gets before the council, he is advised to not even mention magic. Which is where the scene cuts into Vi at the arcade practicing her fighting, while the rest of the group just plays the different games. And it is revealed that Powder is really good with guns. Not too long after that, the Wardens invade the arcade, still looking for whoever caused the explosion. Of course, at that point, Powder has the gems, so they all flee. Here, just pay attention to all the different games, as well as this specific Chomper. It might appear in Arcane 2 again. But in the end, Echo is the one who helps them all escape. In the next scene, Mel is introduced as the richest person in Piltover. However, she is still the poorest Medarda. And it is mentioned that they have a deal with the Pharaoh's family. I don't believe this is ever brought up in Arcane 1 again, but the Pharaoh's family is indeed Camille's house. Here it is revealed that Mel wants to expand her power, and so she is going to focus on the possible gains from Jace's trial. It then cuts to the Kiraman family, who is also talking about Jace's trial. There, they simply want to support Jace. Now back in Zaun, people want to fight. They are sick of all the wardens constantly invading their places, which is where Savika appears for the first time and she tells Vander that he looks weak, after which she just leaves. So Vander refuses to fight, and Echo tells Vi about the deal Vander has with the wardens. Now back in Piltover, the trial is about to begin, and Mel starts to gain favors with birthday gifts. During this trial, some counselors want to punish Jace, which is what pressured Jace into spilling the beans and telling everyone that he is trying to create magic. This shocks everyone, and my favorite counselor, Balbog, gives us some lore. He believes that arcane magic is a curse and it nearly annihilated his race. Of course, Heimerdinger knows how dangerous magic is for mortals, and the show shows how much experience he really has. And he uses this to shut down Jace's speech. He remembers times when magic was in the hands of mortals, which is possibly teasing Tyrus, former master of Rise. Here it is also revealed that Piltover was founded to escape the warmongering of mages, which again is likely referencing the Rune Wars. Anyway, they want to banish Jace, but eventually his mother speaks for him. So then a vote happens, and in the end he only gets expelled from the academy. Baldbok and the other two counselors are still against him and they want to banish him, but the Kierman family, Heimerdinger, Mel, and the one person she swayed with the birthday gift voted in Jace's favor. Which was the point Mel started to snowball her power. Later, Marcus gets invited by Silco into his hideout, where the two make a deal that comes back later. Then, Victor and Heimerdinger hide all of Jace's research, but secretly, Victor takes Jace's notebook to continue his work. Back in Silco's hideout, we see all the sea monsters below Zaun, which is also where he gives Deckard Shimmer and he turns him into a Hulk. After being expelled from the academy, Jace then visits the Kierman family, who always supported him, and he learns their gates are closed to him now. Back in the council, everyone is mad and they wanna turn Zaun upside down. All while the Wardens are trying to not press Zaun while looking for Powder and Vi. Regardless, the Wardens enter the last drop, which is Vander's pub, so Vander starts the secret alarm and Vi's group hides. Here, Marcus tells Vander he met with Silco, and he teased that in the past, Vander was not always the peacemaker he is now. But in the end, the Wardens leave the pub without finding anything. After they leave, Vi reveals she wants to fight. Vander wants to calm her down, and so they visit the bridge. Here we get quick audio flashbacks of the previous battles that happened here, and it is revealed that Vander led those fights. And he asks Vi if she wants to fight, is she willing to lose Milo, Clagger, or Powder? When Vi asks what he's gonna do, she is surprised to hear that Vander doesn't really have a plan. Back in Jace's destroyed lab, Jace attempts to kill himself. But Victor interrupts him. He tells him that he admires his work, and he reveals that he came from Zaun and he wants to continue his work. Back in the last drop, after her talk with Vander, Vi took in the situation and now she appreciates her entire group. Meanwhile, a message from Vander arrived at the Wardens. Off-screen, Powder took down Vi's bunny, the Wardens then march into Banzos, and it is teased that the Wardens are about to take Vi, which is where we jump into the next episode. At the beginning of episode 3, Silco has a flashback. There, he is dropping into the waters below Piltover. He is willing to drown, but his head wants to fight. And that will to fight was given to him by his old friend, Vander. So, it then cuts to Vi waiting for the Wardens, revealing that Vi was the one who sent the message to the Wardens. She wanted to turn herself in, but Vander found her first. Which is where we got the famous line, "You got a good heart, don't ever lose it." After which, Vander shoves Vi into the cellar and turns himself in. Grayson is shocked because she knows without Vander, Zaun is screwed. But they don't have another choice, so together they walk out. Which is where Silco appears with Shimmered Deckard, who then kills Grayson and Benzo. But he leaves Vander and Marcus alive after Silco changed the deal. Back in Piltover, Victor and Jace continue the research. Jace hints that they have to crank the machine, possibly teasing Blitzcrank, who should be at least referenced somewhere down the storyline. To prove their theory, they realize they have to get the crystal from Heimerdinger's lab, and Victor suggests they sneak in. A bit later on, Echo walks into the cellar to free Vi, who witnessed everything that Silco did. Thankfully, Echo saw where they took Vander. It was in the Shimmer Supply Lab. Here Silco reveals he wants to fight the Wardens to free Zaun from the oppression. He trusted Vander in the past, but eventually Vander betrayed him. And now we know Vander never forgave himself for that. Also, Silco's eye was destroyed by Zaunite toxins in the water. Silco then drags Vander to his chair to infuse him with Shimmer. Savika then comes back and it is revealed she is now on Silco's side. Back in Piltover, Victor and Jace break into Heimerdinger's office. Mel catches them, but since it is Jace, she still gives them a chance to prove their work. Down in Zaun, Vi then catches up with the rest of the group and she tells everyone what happened, which is where the mission to rescue Vander begins. But she tells Powder not to follow them because she's not ready yet. And she gives her the blue torch and she tells her to light it when she needs Vi. Inside Heimerdinger's lab, Victor and Jace now crank the machine. Moments later, Jinx has a mental breakdown. She almost threw the gems to the ground, which would definitely kill her. That made her realize the gems can be turned into bombs, and she can use the bombs to help them. Anyway, in the lab, the crank worked. However, now the crystals are still unstable. Down in Zaun, Vi finds Vander and they start to get him out. But Silco sees them and so a fight begins. Which is where Vi fights a really known enemy for the first time. Also, she beats the rest and the group successfully starts to get Vander out. When Silco starts losing, he unleashes Deckard again. Of course, Vi can't win that fight and so she flees, locking the entire group inside the cell together with Vander. Back in Piltover, Victor and Jace stabilize the crystal, they created magic, and Mel is happy to see she successfully gained more power through Jace. Down in Zone, Powder finds the rest of the group and she tries to help. She releases the monkey to kill Deckard and she kills everyone. She destroyed Savika's arm, she burned Singed, and overall, this is just quite an infamous scene, isn't it? Soon after that, Vander sees what happened, and for the first time in a while, he decides to fight again. He fights Deckard, he gets stabbed in the back by Silco, Vander then grabs Silco and he gets a flashback of the two of them fighting in the past. As a result of this stabbing and fighting with Deckard, Vander falls onto a pile of shimmer and drinks it. After getting jacked up, he goes back to Deckard and kills him. He also sees Vi, who calms him down, and he saves her. Unfortunately, Vander still dies, and he tells Vi to take care of Powder, which is when Powder arrives. She realizes what she did, and she has an absolute mental breakdown. Vi slaps her, she leaves her behind, and calls her a jinx. Powder is left there to cry in all the chaos, which is where Silco arrives. He picks up Powder, he reflects in her story, and he takes care of her. Before Vi realizes what happened and she intervenes, she is taken in by Marcus, which is where Act 1 ends. Act 2 begins with a time skip. Heimerdinger and Jace are getting ready to celebrate 200 years of Piltover, and they reference Stanwyck Padidley, a character that was previously really important in the retconned lore, but now it is just a cool reference. Anyway, it is revealed that since Act 1, based on Jace's research, the Hextech Gates were created, and we get a shot of the city which reveals who really rose to power. Namely, you can see the tall house of the Kiraman family, and you can see that Mel started building the Medarda headquarters. When the Hexgate is in use, you can see the map actually points at Noxus, hinting that there is a lot of trading happening between Piltover and Noxus now. And yes, the Hexgate works by just shooting Zeppelins across the world. Anyway, then it cuts into the Progress Day, which is a day when Piltover celebrates inventions. And you can see Jace became a new icon. Caitlyn comes back, she is now revealed to be part of the Wardens. And yes, this guy is a reoccurring appearance. In case you're wondering who this is the director of Fortiche. After that, the mysterious masked man who is part of the Firelights guy is a reoccurring appearance. In case you're wondering who this is the director of Fortiche. After that, the mysterious masked man who is part of the Firelights enters the docks. He interrupts a shimmer shipment, and Powder, who is now known as Jinx, stops the heist. Of course, she gets schizo after she starts remembering Vi, she goes crazy and burns the entire shipment, all while the masked man escapes. Meanwhile, Victor and Jace present their improvements to Hextech inventions. They created a Hextech gemstone. The difference between a crystal and a gem is that gem is cut, which is why gem is smooth. Also, it is just a lot more stable. And they are already trying to use it in the Atlas Gauntlet, which are originally supposed to be used for mining, and in the Hexclaw, which is a laser tool that is supposed to be used by the Artificers. Heimerdinger is impressed, but he wants to make it all safer before they release it. But of course, Victor and Jace think it is production ready now, and so there is a disagreement. Meanwhile, Caitlyn investigates the burning shipment, and she finds the infamous man from Vi's fight. However, Marcus interrupts Caitlyn because she is not a real detective, and instead he just takes the man into the prison. Which is where we get a montage of how modern Zon became. Mostly this means that there is a very common use of shimmer now. And yes, Silco is now the head of the last drop, essentially taking Vander's spot, with Savika being his right hand. And it is revealed that Jinx essentially became Silco's adopted daughter. Now up in Piltover, the council is having a fundraiser party, where Mel confirms she wants to win Jace's heart for power and influence. So later she talks to Jace and she suggests that he should lead Piltover. Meanwhile, Jinx has another mental breakdown in her hideout, telling herself that she is not weak, which is where it is revealed that she has mannequins of Milo and Clagger. Yep, she is refusing to let go of the past. Victor is then shown as visibly sick as he is running out of time. With Jace now being the face of progress, he is giving the speech. And he takes Heimerdinger's side in not revealing what they are working on before it is safe. This disappoints Mel and Victor. In front of the building where Jace has this speech, Caitlyn is holding a post as Jinx starts a fire nearby. This fire turns into an explosion that knocks Caitlyn down and kills 6 other wardens. Of course, all of this is just a distraction, so that Jinx can get up to the council and steal the gemstone. So the council is now scared of Zaun, because now, on top of their Chemtech augments, they also have a Hextech gemstone. With Jace being so close to Hextech, Mel proposes that
So a
Jace
girl like Belle
joins the
Delphine is
council,
fucking...
by which she would essentially get a second seat in the council as long as she can control Jace. Meanwhile, Jinx goes back to her hideout and she starts to experiment with the gemstone. Silco comes in, he is mad that Jinx is causing all the chaos in Piltover, but he calms down after he sees the gem she secured. Later, Caitlyn recovered from the explosion and she continued her investigation. She knows that the heist is linked to Shimmer and the Hextech gates. This is where Jace told Caitlyn that she would not be holding posts anymore, as her parents just got her out for her own safety. Caitlyn doesn't care and she continues her investigation in the Stillwater Hold, which is the prison where the infamous man was taken. And we learn that here he was beaten by Vi again. Caitlyn would like to speak to him, but unfortunately Vi broke his jaw so he can't speak. So Caitlyn's only option to learn something is to speak with Vi, which is where we get to episode 5. To him, but unfortunately Vi broke his jaw so he can't speak. So Caitlyn's only option to learn something is to speak with Vi, which is where we get to episode 5. This episode starts with Caitlyn's flashback, where she is in a shooting competition competing with Grayson. She won the competition, however, Grayson let her win. After which it cuts back to the prison where she's talking to Vi. Vi notices that Caitlyn has leads to powder and so she cooperates. Of course, Caitlyn needs to find Silco, but she realizes she can only do it with Vi's help. So she got Jace, who is now the head of the council, to sign a release form for Vi. After which, Marcus gives a speech at a Piltover funeral. These were the 6 wardens who died from Jinx's explosion. And he even visits Grayson's grave. Which is where it is revealed that Marcus has a deal with Silco. Which is why he is constantly trying to stop Caitlyn from investigating him. Of course, Marcus wants to arrest Jinx because she's dangerous, but Silco won't give her up. And Silco revealed that the Zeppelin shipment was his. After which, he just pays Marcus off. Then the scene goes into the inside of the Hex Gates, where Victor and Jace are now watching over it to make sure it is safe. So Marcus arrives, Jace tells him that he wants to investigate, and naturally Marcus gets nervous because he does not want to do that because he has a deal with Silco. Victor then starts coughing blood, showing us that he is running out of time, and he wants to work on Hextech faster to save his own life. However, unaware of the situation, Jace wants to slow down to be safe, which is where Victor gets those weird magical visions. Then it is revealed that besides the gemstone, Jinx also stole Jace's notebook, and she is using it to recreate Victor's and Jace's stabilization. Of course, the magic reminds her of the incident, and so she stops working on it. Back in Piltover, Vi is now enjoying being free after years of imprisonment, which is where we get the parkour montage of her getting down to Zaun, with Caitlyn trying to follow her. Vi then finds 2 Zaunite goons and she steals their clothing to blend in. The red jacket goes to Vi, and the purple outfit goes to Caitlyn. Back in the lab, Victor works on the Hex Core, and he started approaching magic as a living force. He even suggests that the arcane can learn. Back in Zaun, Vi and Caitlyn visit Jericho's fish stand, where they got a lead from him. Up in Piltover, Mel is trying to gain even more power using Jace in the Opera House. Fun fact, the guy performing the music is indeed the director of Arcane's music. Anyway, here Mel reveals that the other counselors hate Jace, because he is slowing down progress and businesses. Though Mel still stays on Jace's side, and she pushes him into making a deal with everyone, so that Mel could have a pawn in the game that is friends with everyone. Jinx then visits the old arcade, where she has another mental breakdown, and that's kinda it. So, Vi and Caitlyn visit the brothel. Here we can find one famous guy dressed as the Wolf of Kindred. Remember him, alright? And also Gimpy Yordle. That is also where we heard the line, "You're hot, cupcake." Anyway, Vi leaves Caitlyn to enjoy the brothel, while Vi learns what really happened to Zaun while she was gone. Later, Marcus meets with Silco and tells him that the wardens are now after him. Silco gives him a false, misdirecting proof that the firelights are behind all of this, and for a moment, Marcus is considering just ending it all, blowing himself up together with Silco. But that is just in his head. So next, Silco pushes Jinx into using the gemstone to create a weapon. Back in Zaun, Vi learns that Silco now has full power over Zaun. And she learns that Silco's right hand is a regular in the brothel, and she would get a lead on them. Of course, that right hand is Savika. This is also when Vi learns that Caitlyn is into women. At the end of this day, Mel makes a move onto Jace, and she essentially logs him in as an investment. Meanwhile, as Jace is partying, Victor is working hard. In fact, while Jace and Mel are doing it, Victor is dying. Indeed, this is when Victor's blood was mixed in with the hex core for the first time. Ironically, this scene might be also teasing that Mel might be possibly pregnant with Jace's child, and to anyone who knows Mbessa's lore, just remember that this might be a possibility, because that would be some really cool foreshadowing for a possible future Chosen of the Wolf. Anyway, Silco then gives Jinx a history lesson about him and Vander. He tells Jinx that he let himself die to be born as a stronger man. And in that way, Silco lets Powder die so that Jinx can be born. And then we get a story montage. Vi follows the lead on Silco's right hand, Marcus gets more and more nervous from Silco corrupting him, Mel wakes up alone without Jace, and Victor is dying. So following up on this setup, Vi gets to fight Savika. Here they both fight with a decent mutual respect, because they are both fighting for what they believe is the best for Zaun. Vi actually manages to beat her and she asks about Jinx. Savika tells her that Jinx now works for Silco, which shocks Vi, and gives Savika the opportunity to stab her. Before she can kill her, Vi is saved by Caitlyn, and the two bond over that moment. Down in the basement, Jinx makes a significant progress on the weapon, and Silco learns that Vi is alive, which is Jinx's only living link to Powder, which is where episode 6 starts. This is where we get Victor's flashback. From his birth, as the story puts it, he was a cripple from Zaun. And as the other kids were playing in the sumps, he was creating inventions. And soon he stumbled upon Singed and Rio. Singed revealed that Rio was a form of life he cultivated, and that Rio was dying, but he wanted to keep the mutation alive at all cost. Victor then offered his help, which is where we get to present days. In the present day, Heimer meets Victor. Heimerdinger feels sorry about his condition and he references the fact that he is immortal, which is where he says the line, "The brightest minds burn the fastest." In the Medarda headquarters, Mel is painting Noxus, which is her home. Jace then tells Mel that Victor is dying, and he reveals his feelings towards Mel, which makes Mel a little bit nervous. Maybe Jace was her political asset, but at the end of the day, maybe Mel also developed some of her own feelings towards him. Anyway, Victor being Victor, he loses his mind over dealing with the hex core. He realizes that his blood fused with it, and so he tries to control it with his own body. Jinx then meets Theorem at the bar and calls him Chuck. From him, she learns that someone fought Savika. And she learned it was a girl whom Silco was after, so Jinx got curious. With Vi still being injured from the fight with Savika, Vi and Caitlyn retreat further down Zaun. They are being chased by Silco's goons, but soon they lose them. So Savika goes back to Silco's office and tells him that they lost them somewhere down in Zaun. But when Silco turns, it is Jinx sitting in his chair. She manages to tie Savika up and interrogate her. From her, she learns that Silco is after Vi, which freaks her out because she doesn't even know that Vi is alive. Meanwhile, the reason why Silco was not in his office is because he was visiting Marcus's family. Specifically, he was playing with his daughter Ren. The reason he was here is because Marcus ensured Silco that Vi was dead, but now it was obvious she wasn't. So Silco was now threatening Marcus's family over the fact that he should remove Vi. Back in the lab, Victor realized that the hex core is now reacting to life. It can cultivate flowers, but soon everything around it always dies. Heimerdinger sees this experiment, he sees that life is now bonding with magic, and he remembers events from the past. So, he tells them to destroy it. Of course, Jace sides with Victor and he refuses. which is where Victor hints that he knows someone who could help them. Now down in Zone, Caitlin and Vi ended up in Vi's old house, and they find Huck, an old friend who is now addicted to Shimmer. With his help, Caitlin is able to get some Shimmer medication to help Vi. Up in Piltover, Marcus presents Silco's misdirection to Jace, proving that it is all the work of the Firelights. He also told Jace that Vi was now released from her prison, and that it was done on Jace's order, so he asks if he can help with the situation. But Jace says they're fine. So, Heimerdinger calls for a meeting at the council so he can tell everyone how divided everyone became. Low-key, he is panicking about Hextech potentially being weaponized. But Jace stops him by telling him that Piltover is in danger. Zaun is constantly threatening them, and so they have to do something. But because Heimerdinger is not threatened by mortality, he wants to take things slow. And so, he gets kicked out. What's cool is that this vote is actually a relationship avalanche. The vote had to be unanimous. But because Jace voted for it, Mel had to follow him. Because Mel voted, our old friend who keeps getting gifts from Mel also had to follow her. His drunkard friend, of course, was in the same boat. And it all trickled down until Heimerdinger was let go. Down in Zone, Caitlin saves Vi using the medicine. She then learns that Vi's parents were killed by the Enforcers, and they meet Silco outside. Vi learned that they were snitched out by Huck himself. To escape, they bring down the entire building. Meanwhile, after learning that Vi is actually alive, Jinx lights up the blue torch to let Vi know where she is. At the same time, Marcus closes the bridge. He is doing this to make sure Caitlin and Vi don't return from Zone. Which is where we get another flashback of young Victor. Here he saw Rio dying, which transitions into Rio in the present days. Singed is still keeping Rio alive. So Silco then finally comes back to his office, and he is called a liar for not telling Jinx about Vi. Of course, Vi follows the torch, and eventually she meets with Powder. The two hug each other and the world is good for a few seconds. Vi tries to explain the situation, but Caitlin arrives, Jinx realizes that Savika wasn't lying, Vi was working with an enforcer, and so Jinx has a breakdown, not sure who to trust. Meanwhile, the masked man and the Firelights appear to steal the gemstone. They successfully do that, they also beat Vi and take her with them, and they leave Jinx alone again, which is the end of Act 2. Act 3 begins with a Firelight music video. Here, Vi and Caitlin are tied in their hideout, and Echo is revealed to be the masked man who is also the leader of Firelights. Naturally, he asks about the gemstone and Jinx. He also refuses to call her Powder because Powder is dead. And he is suspicious about Vi because she is working with Caitlin. But of course, Vi hugs him and the two recall their childhood. Down in Zone, Singed is using a microscope to have a look at how the hex core is reacting to life. He knows it is dangerous, and so he offers Victor Shimmer to help with violent transmutations. But he warns Victor that everyone will hate him for using Shimmer. He even says love and legacy are the sacrifices for progress. And in fact, that is the reason why he parted ways with Heimerdinger. As response, Victor says that Jace will understand. Back in Piltover, Jace is now hard at work. He tells Mel that he feels bad about kicking out Heimerdinger, and Mel reveals that she is also an exile, but a part of her still loves her family. Also, Victor just disappeared, and so Jace now wants to find him. Of course, Mel offered her help with that. Silco then had a meeting with Savika. He learns that the Camp Barons of Zone scheduled assembly. Before that, Silco wanted to go out and find Jinx, but Savika told him that she'll come back on her own once she's ready. For once, Silco is the one who follows that advice. Jinx then returned wounded to her hideout, and she started using a stapler to fix her wound. Which is where she realized that Caitlin is someone that should be probably removed from Vi. Vi then sees how beautiful the Firelight's hideout is. After Vander died, apparently Silco flooded Zone with Shimmer, which turned everyone into an addict, so they built a haven. Echo then tells Vi that Powder is gone, and that only Jinx remains now, which is when he showed Vi the mural. Now back on the closed bridge, riots started. This is also when Jace finally found Victor and learned that he was down in Zone. So of course he was mad, but he also helped him get through the blockade. Here Victor also lied and he told Jace he didn't learn anything. All while he kept the Shimmer he got from Singed. Down in Zon, the Baron meeting started. All the Barons were skeptical. They wanted to trade back the gemstone for reopening the bridge. But Silco offered them a more violent option. The people of Zon would not trade, they would fight for resources. So he gassed everyone and asserted dominance. Up in Piltover, Mel learns that Noxus believes that Piltover now looks weak. And Mel says that it's all happening too soon, Jace wasn't ready. But unfortunately, she got a message that her mother was already on her way. Down in the hideout, Caitlyn got untied. And Echo offered to escort her back to Piltover, but nothing more. Jinx then finally got back to Silco's office. She faced him and called him a liar for hiding the truth about Vi. He tried to defend himself by telling her that Vi was looking for the gemstone, not for her. By which he lied, and he also pushed the Jinx towards completing the weapon. In the hideout, Caitlyn then talks to Echo. She explains to him that everyone believes that the Firelights are working for Silco. Echo then learns from Caitlyn what the gemstone can really do, and the two decide to work together to bring the gem back to Jace, so that he can use it to help the people of Zon. Up in Piltover, Victor and Jace then defuse Jinx's bomb. And Mel suggests they should use Hextech to make weapons. Of course, she's being pressured by Noxus now, but she says that they are gonna use them to defend themselves. Victor refuses, and Jace thinks about it. After which, there is a quick story recap montage. The Firelights group up to travel to Piltover. Victor carves runes into his leg and is ready to fuse with the Hex core. The core then quickly fuses with his body and is refusing to let go. Jace thinks back to the times when magic was destructive, and Jinx waits at the bridge, which takes us to the famous bridge scene. As they get to the bridge, Vi decides to go back to Zon to find Powder, which leaves Echo and Caitlyn to keep going to get the gem to Jace. So Vi and Caitlyn hug to say their goodbye, and Jinx sees them. Of course, at the end of the bridge, Caitlyn and Echo get stopped by the Wardens. There, Caitlyn shows Marcus the proof that Silco is behind everything. But because Marcus has a deal with Silco, who is now threatening his family, he has no other choice than to kill them. So he shoots Echo, and then he hesitates to shoot Caitlyn, giving Jinx the time to blow up the entire bridge, which destroyed the blockade and killed Marcus. Hearing the explosion, Vi then runs back to Caitlyn. Of course, Jinx sees them together again. She tries to shoot them, but Echo jumps in to save the day. So we get a really epic fight scene between Echo and Jinx, as he's buying time for Vi and Caitlyn to escape. Of course, the scene ends with Jinx blowing both of them up. And that takes us to episode 8, which is where we got some flashbacks from Mel. There, Ambessa is revealed to be Mel's mother, who mentions that her grandfather took her back to the aftermath of the Battle of Hildenard, which is where she was asked to pick up swords, and for every sword she would get a piece of gold. Of course, the truth was, her grandfather just wanted Ambessa to know death. What's really cool is that all of this was referenced in Ambessa's bio. And here it is revealed that Mel also has a brother called Kino. In this scene, they were in a room with the conquered throne, and Mel started talking about how she would renew this place. Ambessa then mentioned that this throne could be hers if she can prove that she can take it. So they bring in a royalty of the old regime. Mel says that they should spare her to show that they are merciful, but Ambessa says that they should kill her, otherwise they would have to kill a lot more people. And so the girl dies. After the battle between Jinx and Echo is over, Silco arrives to pick up Jinx's near-dead body. There it turns out that Jinx also had the gem. In the morning, Mel and Jace also arrive. Jace can't handle all the death, and so he throws up. And just like Ambessa, once again you can see that Mel is forced to know death. Vi and Caitlyn then sneak into Caitlyn's room, which is where her mother bursts out with a rifle. And then they have a friendly conversation. Caitlyn explains that the council has no idea what's happening in Zon. So, her mother schedules a meeting with the council. But Caitlyn and Vi would have to present their case on their own. Down in Zon, Silco brings Jinx's body to Singed. Singed can see that he can save her, but he knows that Silco would interfere, and so he drugs him. That is also where Singed reveals that he also once had a daughter. Meanwhile, in the last drop, Finn tries to sway Savika against Silco. And up in Piltover, Ambessa arrives. Here Mel addresses the fact that she was banished, and yet now her mother is visiting her. Ambessa kinda ignores it, and then she mentions that Kino died because he crossed the wrong man. Also, apparently from her spies, Mbessa knows about Jace, and she knows that he can potentially make weapons. So Mbessa leaves to taste the local cuisine, which is where the guy dressed as a wolf comes back. It makes sense with Mbessa being a chosen of the wolf. So in the Kiraman house, Caitlyn tells Vi that they would present their case to the council, and then the two share an intimate moment. Meanwhile, Jinx is getting pumped with Shimmer. And of course, she is getting psychotic. When Silco wakes up from being drugged, Jinx is already gone. But then, Heimerdinger comes back and now he's visiting Zaun. And he sees how everyone in Zaun is in a really bad shape. So he walks to the bridge, he finds Echo's hoverboard, and then he finds wounded Echo. And then he offers his help to get him to safety. Next, Jace visits Mbessa to negotiate weapons. At first, Jace sees Mbessa as arrogant, but she tells him that without weapons, Piltover will not be able to defend itself. Which is pretty much what Mel told him before. So now the council had a meeting. The current situation was that all shipments were delayed, their former sheriff betrayed them, and so now they had to act. Which is when Caitlyn and Vi entered the room to explain the situation. The people of Zaun were poor and starving and ravaged by Shimmer, all while living in the fear of the crime lords who were the Cam Barons. Especially Silco. Of course, Bolbok mentioned that they investigated Silco numerous times, but every time that happened, it was done by Marcus. So Jace asks about the misdirection bomb, and Vi reveals it was made by Jinx, who now also had the gemstone. This immediately pushed Jace into fighting back, although everyone else still wanted to try negotiations. This triggered Vi, who knew it was impossible to do that with Silco. So she leaves, Caitlyn runs after her, and so we get the oil and water moment, where Vi doubts the two can even be together. Meanwhile, Victor, for the first time, successfully fused with the core, and he renewed his own leg. So he tried walking, and he started running. As that is happening, the hex core is taking on a more flesh-like appearance. So Victor pushes the limits and he carves the runes all across his body. And it so happens to be that he is approached by his assistant, who happens to be in love with him. So as Victor taps into the core again, the magic leashes out and his assistant turns into dust. Meanwhile, Jace is using Hextech to craft his own hammer. Vi visits him because he was the only one who also wanted to fight. She also picks up the Atlas gauntlets without asking, and she offers that the two should team up to destroy Silco's Shimmer supplies. And Jace agrees. So together with the Wardens, they take over the Shimmer facility, but an alarm is raised and so they have to fight a bunch of Camtech tanks. Of course they win, but Jace accidentally kills the son of one of the Cam Barons, who was just a civilian. After this, Jace can see how dangerous Hextech really is. Meanwhile, Caitlyn is taking a shower and gets kidnapped by Jinx, which is where episode 9 starts. In the aftermath of the battle, Jace regrets it, but Vi wants to keep going after Silco, so she destroys Silco's supplies. Later, Silco arrives and Rani, who is one of the Cam Barons, notices that her son is dead, and she blames Silco for this. So that is another Swayed Baron. Victor is then mourning the death of his assistant and notices that she was continuing his work. Full of hate, Victor then turns towards the hex core and tries to destroy it, but he can't. The core is simply linked to him now. Meanwhile, Mel is mad at Mbessa for talking to Jace and for making him make weapons. Mbessa simply wants to speed up that process because it would happen eventually. And she admitted that she banished Mel here because Mel was making Mbessa weak. Having to take care of her children simply made her sentimental, which is not what a warlord should be. And there she also invited Mel to go back to Noxus with her. Down in Zaun, Victor spills the ashes of his assistant into the sump. He also considered jumping, but Jace interrupted him. The two then started talking about how it all started and where they were now. Which is where Victor asked Jace to destroy the core. And Jace promised he would do it. The Barons then confront Silco. They want to overthrow him, but Savika stays loyal to Silco, and so she kills Finn instead. Also, as a fun fact, Savika now has Finn's lighter. Anyway, Jace sent a letter to Silco so they could negotiate. Silco accepts and they meet far away from the city. Silco gives Jace a list of demands. Stuff like free trade routes as well as unrestricted access to the hex gates. Jace thinks it is too much and he is confident that with Hextech weapons they would annihilate Zaun. And so, Jace also asked that he would stop his production of Shimmer, he would give them back the Hextech Gemstone, and he would give them Jinx. But that is something Silco would never do. So the trade was Jinx for the nation of Zaun. So, down in the Firelight hideout, Echo was escorted here with Heimerdinger, and Silco visits Vander's memorial, where he is just processing what's happening. But of course, Jinx was there too, and so she kidnapped him. Vi, still holding the Atlas gauntlets, then visits Savika, and a really cool fight breaks out. During this fight, one of Vi's gauntlets gets destroyed, and so does Savika's arm. Of course, they both end up collapsing, and Jinx kidnaps Vi too. Jace then calls for a council meeting. He thinks that he struck a deal with Silco, not knowing that he would never give Jinx up. And so he tells everyone else that there will be peace for the independence of Zaun, which angered everyone. Which is where the scene cuts to Jinx setting up a family meeting. Everyone was now at a big table, and she tells Vi that Silco is not the one who made Jinx. It was Vi. Vi then tells her that she was always looking for her, but someone was always in the way. Jinx kinda doubts that. And so, during this family meeting, she was hoping to assess her life. Everyone was here. There was Silco and Vander's gauntlets and Milo and Clagger. Also, Caitlyn and Vi are also there, and there are 2 more available seats for Powder and Jinx, giving Jinx the option to choose who she's gonna become. She then gives Vi a gun and tells her to remove Caitlyn to get Powder back. Of course, that's not gonna happen. And so Jinx picks up the gun, Vi tells her that they can just run away together, and Silco shouts out that Piltover wanted peace with Zaun in exchange for Jinx, but he would never give her up. But that talk gets interrupted by Caitlyn, who freed herself. She picked up Jinx's machine gun and now was ready to shoot. Although, Jinx knocks her down regardless. At that point, Jinx doesn't know what to do. She doesn't even want to shoot Caitlyn because it is Vi's friend after all. And so she goes schizo, she shoots at the voices, and she accidentally kills Silco. Then there was some long thinking about what just happened, and Jinx decided to become Jinx. She then takes the gem, she slots it into her complete weapon, which turns out to be a rocket launcher, and she shoots at the council, right as they all believe they are striking a peace deal. After which, there is a short montage of everything that happened, including the fact that Echo is now with Heimerdinger, Singed is in the process of creating Warwick, and the council room is in very big danger, which is where Arcane 1 got off. I hope that's all you really wanted to remember, because this ended up way too long. I really just wanted to make one more video before Arcane 2 dropped. And here we are.
A couple of months ago, Baldur's Gate 3 was released to a commercial and critical fanfare that seemed to surprise a lot of people.
It seemed like the industry had underestimated the popularity of CRPGs, or at the very least, a desire for deep and meaningful.
I think one of the reasons why Baldur's Gate 3 popped off so hard is that the characters were very relatable and they had good personalities. Like, I know the personalities of the characters and I didn't even really play the game. I think that's fucking impressive.
Single player
Soft
experiences.
modern? No,
a lot
they're
of
not.
people had opinions about this. Destin Lagari at IGN claimed that Baldur's Gate 3 was causing panic in game dev circles and showed that many developers just had low standards, while Jason Schreier said that the secret to Larian's success was that they were privately owned.
And while
That's a big fucking reason. But I don't think Jason Schreier is completely right. You want to know why? It's because Lost Ark is also privately owned.
those arguments definitely struck a chord with some people, I find that they're two-dimensional answers to a three-dimensional question.
Yeah.
If there's one thing
Yeah,
I've
he's
learned
right.
from over a decade of talking to people who make successful games about why they're successful, is that the answers are usually not so simple.
Diablo
So
2.
today on By Design, I'm going to pick apart the development and reception of Baldur's Gate 3 and try to find some answers as to what made this game successful. To do this, I'm going to take a look at the history of Larian Studios, interview their director of publishing about their internal strategy,
Damn.
talk to Co-Carnage about the changing face of
That's a lot.
CRPG fandom, and try not to get too focused on the bear sex.
Oh,
But the
God.
bear sex was definitely part of it. The bear sex is causing panic in game dev circles. We have a lot to cover here, but we're going to start with 3 topics first.
Probably
Number
true.
1, the history of Larian Studios. Number 2, a health check on the CRPG genre. And number 3, how Baldur's Gate 3 was marketed.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's jump in.
All right, let's see it. Fuck, what's this shit? There's a lot of shit to read.
Okay, let's get the most obvious point out of the way.
I know what it is. They had to, this is from A16Z, which is like an investment place, and, they can't talk about this stuff without, qualifying that it's not like financial advice. Perfect. Like, trust me, guys, like, I think about this shit all the time. No, I did not go to jerk off screen, guys. I would do that on stream, okay? That's the Asmongold challenge. Of course I'm not going to do it off stream. All right, here we go.
So I'm not going to be on the internet forever. And I think there will come a time, I think, where I will just probably do everything, and then I think I'll leave.
Do everything.
Belle Delphine had the entire internet wrapped around her finger. Viewer Sims, other YouTubers, it didn't even matter if you liked her or not, everyone was always curious as to what she might do next. However, between the months of December 2020 and March 2021, the curiosity seemed to dry up completely. People stopped Googling her name, her army of Twitter followers departed in droves, her Patreon supporters dropped by 90%, she's rarely talked about on YouTube unless it's someone investigating what on earth ended up happening to her, and as at the time of posting this video, she hasn't been active on OnlyFans in almost a month, which is
Yeah,
pretty
she hasn't made any content. That's why people stopped watching her, is because she stopped doing crazy shit.
insane considering she used to post up to 40 photos per day.
On my OnlyFans, I'm posting about 40 pictures a day.
Oh,
and
wow.
like
Holy crap.
videos as well. I try and be as active as I possibly
Belle Delphine's career kind of died, and interestingly, there's so many different reasons for it. However, we have to start simple in order to understand the whole picture. So we'll begin with this. Belle Delphine removed 2 core components from her content that have been keeping her persona interesting: mystery and intrigue. Belle Delphine discussed on the H3 podcast that one of her main strategies for standing out as unique was that she'd mix her cutesy image with the strangest, most unrelated topics to build curiosity around her character.
Well, it's also like whenever the thing is that like somebody like Belle Delphine, this is my opinion on this, is that if you go and you say it's like an image or a persona or something like that, there are a lot of people that think that you're like a real cutesy girl, and like you have to sell the authentic image, because as soon as people think that it's fake, then they start they lose interest. I think that's really what it is.
got the taking cute pictures and stuff, but that's not gonna really do it. So I decided to do weird things in the combination as well as being sexy. And I'll be like cracking an egg in my mouth or something.
Exactly.
And then people will share that, be like, this girl's so weird and quirky or whatever.
This would show in videos such as Meet My Best Friend, in which
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. Like that kind of stuff is what makes people lose interest, is because they like the fantasy of it being like a real cutesy weird girl, and the moment that you turn it into it's actually just an act or some sort of like image that's put out there, then they lose interest. That's just disgusting. People are weird. Well, yeah, they're weird, but I'm just talking about how they're weird.
Delphine would dress somewhat
That's what it
provocatively
is.
and play with an octopus throughout the entire video.
That's
While
cute.
certainly being a little bit on the weird side, this video worked exactly as intended because, as you might expect, many other influencers went to the effort of talking about the weirdness on their own channels.
Meet my best friends. Some of you have referred to this video as disturbing.
In addition to this, Belle Delphine would become known for her infamous Ahegao face,
I think the first thing that went big was the Ahegao face.
which also perfected the mix of mystery.
Bro, like I've seen this shit so many fucking times, man. Oh my god, people still use this. People meme her for the face.
Intrigue and attractiveness,
super
while helping
popular.
her to stand out as unique after many attributed this face specifically to Belle Delphine. All of this
Absolutely.
seems like common knowledge now that
100%.
she's come onto podcasts and explained her story, but in the beginning, Belle was completely silent. She withheld as much information as possible, so when you were unavoidably introduced to her content with nothing more than this photo on your Twitter timeline, intrigue was almost guaranteed. But to keep this intrigue and conversation fresh, Belle Delphine began to escalate her publicity stunts, making them weirder and weirder in order to maintain the public's interest.
It's time to get your gamer girl bathwater.
Belle Delphine's next stunt was so infamous and hilariously successful that talking about it is almost a waste of time.
And then it came to me and it was like, bathwater, like bottled bathwater.
It was just like, I even remember like where I was like sitting at a pizza shop and I read that for the first time and it just completely fucking blew my mind. It was genius. Yeah. The thing is, like, people are fucking weird. People are, and people bought it. Yeah, they actually bought it. That's the thing that nobody can seem to understand, is that it would be one thing if like, oh yeah, this is happening and it's like, okay, it's just like some weird girl that's trying to do this. But what's so crazy is that it's actually working. It actually works. Yeah, they drank it. Yeah, I remember McConnell. I remember, yeah, that's what it was. I remember that very clearly. What do they do with it? Why? Do you really want to know the answer to that question? I mean, really? Yeah, I'm not gonna. Yeah, no way. And it's just fart jars too. Absolutely. It's so ridiculous. It's beyond words.
July 2019, Belle announced that she'll be selling her bathwater for $30 per jar, which hilariously sold out in less than 2 days. YouTubers from every corner of the website joined in on the madness, each of which selling a little bit of their soul for a slight uptick in
Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. What is wrong with you? Like, why? What are you doing, man? What the fuck are you doing?
views after they inevitably drank the bathwater on camera. On the print media side of things, the stupidity of the campaign prompted news article after news article, some of which even going so far as to claim that the bathwater gave an STD to over 50 people.
There was that fake article about the herpes or whatever that spread.
However, these negative articles were still a massive positive for the growth of her overall image.
Even though they're bad, are still kind of good.
It's good press. It's always good press.
Yeah.
By the end of the bathwater campaign, Belle Delphine had well and truly catapulted herself into the mainstream.
Oh yeah,
however, in the process,
bro, like everybody fucking knew about this. Like, yeah, they 100%, like, this is what really, I think the bathwater is what really, like, got people excited about Belle Delphine. That, in my opinion, like, before that, it was just, like, this weird, like, gamer girl thing. But, like, that's whenever things really went over the edge.
There were obviously going to be setbacks. By this point in time, Belle Delphine had built what many referred to as an army of simps, who had seemingly fallen in love with Belle Delphine and...
as many refer to as an army